You got to wait for a gapper.
That is fair down the right field line. Giambi on his way to third. And they're going to wave him around. The throw misses a cutoff man. Shot into the plate. Out of the plate. Derek Jeter with one of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see by a shortstop.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Good morning, and a pleasant good Monday morning on a beautiful day here in greater Cincinnati. Lots of sunshine, lots of happy faces around here, even though we're rolling into work on a Monday. Casey McAllister, Paul Fritzner, good morning, men.
Tom, great to be here. How you doing today?
Awesome. Casey, you all right?
Yeah, doing great.
Got the beard gone.
It's gone. Yeah, I was going to try to wait a little longer.
Was that for the wedding?
Yeah, I was going to trim it all for the wedding and make it look nice, and it was going to be a lot shorter than what it was, but I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was getting too tired of it. Didn't feel like wasting the money to go get it trimmed up by a barber and then do it again, so I'm just going to let it grow out and hope that it works out.
But, I mean, you're going to be clean shaven like you are today for the wedding day.
No, there's going to be.
You're going to have that like that 10 o'clock shadow thing going?
Yeah, that's the goal. It's going to be a 10 o'clock shadow.
It's a big decision.
Tom, last time he shaved, he called you an ex-professional, so buckle up for the next week.
Feel a little cantankerous this morning, so.
Wow.
I was shocked. I thought he'd go beard for the wedding.
Well, just not that long.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was too much.
That's fair.
But now I feel naked. I feel bare.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
It's a terrible feeling.
So Alex prefers the 10 o'clock. I mean, that's your wedding picture now, which is going to live forever.
Yeah, she prefers that shadow look, that little stubble. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, welcome everybody to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brenneman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10
A
to 12
P.
There you go, Eastern Time. You can follow us on YouTube, Chatterbox Sports page. We ask you to jump in. And if you'd prefer to join us in podcast form, by all means, join Off the Bench. Search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman, and you're dialed in. Big crowds, right? Great weather. Casey, you were down there Friday night. GABP had them both over the weekend with the Yankees in town. And with it, a chance really to get a dormant fan base excited about the product. But the single most important thing the Reds didn't get over the weekend, a single win. Friday night, a 6-2 loss. Saturday, the Aaron Judge show. He had 4 hits, 5 times on base, delivered the game-winning hit in extra innings, 7-4 on Saturday. Then yesterday, the offense managed 1 single run behind Hunter Green, who pitched well, went 7 innings, allowed 4 runs, 4-1 loss. That was 7 runs. 7 runs the Reds scored in 3 games. The duo of Tyler Stevenson and Will Myers were a combined 1 for 14 in the first 2 games of the series. Both found themselves on the bench for Sunday's finale. With 3 straight losses, the Reds have slipped into dead last in the NL Central as they were leapfrogged by surging St. Louis. The Cardinals come to town tonight, open a 3-game series. Brandon Williamson off his major league debut. It was a good one out in Denver. He'll be opposed by Jordan Montgomery. First pitch at 6:40. Ricky Horton, you might remember him, a left-hander, reliever in the big leagues, longtime pitcher. Now he's a TV analyst for the St. Louis Cardinals. He will join us to talk about the series and Cardinals baseball at 11 o'clock. Brooks Koepka closed the deal in yesterday's final round of the PGA Championship. You may remember he couldn't hold that lead last month going into the final round at the Masters. But yesterday he stormed out of the gate and was able to hold off Victor Hovland and Scotty Scheffler to win his 5th major, his 3rd PGA title. Final round score of 67. He was 9 under for the tournament. It's interesting that while Koepka was the winner, most of the talk was about this guy. I mean, could you not be crazy about the club pro from California, right? He's the club pro at a country club in California, Michael Block. How about his week? Now, you know he rolls in to Rochester, New York, figuring 0 chance to compete, even make the cut, right? He goes to the final round in the hunt. He then aces the par 3 15th. Do we have this?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
This is unbelievable. Watch this.
Seconds ago at the 15th. The fairy tale story gets better.
Oh,
It sure did. Dumped it.
you know, if you watched his press conferences over the weekend, did you guys get a chance to watch much of that?
Yeah.
I mean, the everyman, right?
Yeah, and then him getting – did you see the video of him getting the phone call yesterday to get invited to the Charles Schwab?
Yeah, well, that's
this
what I
week?
was getting at, is that he has a par 3 hole-in-one on the 15th, right? And then, I'm telling you, I mean, as unbelievable as the hole-in-one was, if you watched number 18, now he knows he has to par this hole, okay, to qualify for next year's PGA Championship. So he steps up on the tee, shanks it in the rough, and the rough's like this deep. Hits a next shot in the gronk, and there he is again. And you're thinking, there is no way on God's earth this guy's going up and down. It's like a hundo out in the gronk. It ain't happening. And he doesn't. It was just unbelievable. I mean, it does go to show you don't have to win to have great things happen to you. And that's what happened with this guy, Michael Block. So what it means is he qualifies for next year's PGA Championship. And then, as Paul was starting to say, after all that, right, he finds out he gets a sponsor's exemption for 2 tournaments. The Charles Schwab next week, and then the Canadian Open in June. So here this guy gets off the plane probably Tuesday in Rochester, all the way from California. And he's thinking, oh, this is cool. I'm going to play a couple of days with the best in the world, right? And then they had the press conference where after the first round, he was like 8 shots better than John Rahm. Did you see that interview when they asked him that question?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Incredible. And look, you know, it's interesting. Golf, for a long, long time, golf was considered to be the sport of kind of the elite crowd. Big money, country clubs. But as the years have gone by, golf has done such a beautiful job of appealing to just the common man. I mean, how many of you get out and play in some golf league on a Tuesday night, right? With all your buddies, right? You can be skinny as a rail. You can be 70 pounds overweight. You can have cheap clubs, bad clothes. Doesn't matter, right? It's becoming, in a lot of ways, an every man's game. And that's why a guy like Michael Block appeals to so many, and what he did this weekend. You're not a golfer, are you, Casey?
No, in fact, every time I'm invited to go golfing, I tell them that I'll just be their hype man. I'll be their their
caddy.
Kenny.
Because I would rather just watch someone who's really good at golf than me try to attempt playing or,
Hey, you weren't that bad. We all went last year. We had a day where we had a Friday off.
You weren't there to see the handicap.
Oh, was I not?
No.
Yeah, you did play in the group in front of me.
Yeah, you weren't there.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
Trace was just trying to be nice, but I'm really bad.
Well, I saw the swing. It wasn't terrible. Like when you told
I'm sure it was terrible.
Well, to be
I'd
fair,
bet on it.
To be fair to Casey, when you said you didn't golf, I was expecting like a little nothing burger 5 feet in front of the tee box. I don't know how many shots I saw though, so maybe that was the majority of the shots. You were okay.
You made contact.
Yeah,
I made contact.
All right. Well, hey, there are a lot of guys that swing and miss,
It's true.
right? They're getting out there, just getting started.
that's right.
Paul, you are a golfer.
Love golf.
Yeah.
God, it's so hard playing right now with all these leagues, though. To your point about leagues.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you get off. It's like you're trying to find a tee time at like 5 or 5:30, and everybody's in leagues till 6:30.
Well, our son Luke plays on the golf team, and they had a match somewhere. I can't remember where it was. It was way out, somewhere out around here. And I'd never heard of the place. And so he was wrapping up. They played 9 in a high school, match against somebody. And as we're coming in, I mean, there must have been on a Tuesday or Thursday, there must have been 60 guys who all work at one of the plants, not the executive guys, but the guys who work at one of the P&G operations around town.
Sure.
And there must have been 50 of them out there. One group after the next.
Oh, yeah.
In a league. Fantastic. All right, in basketball, both playoff series, they're basically over. The Miami Heat have just destroyed the Boston Celtics. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. The Heat will tell you they saw it coming. And I tell you, it's really interesting to read more and more about this Miami team. That coach of theirs, that is a big league coach for the Miami Heat. The real man. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Eric Spoelstra.
But of course, I was trying to explain to my son who's telling me what a great coach this guy is. And he is a great coach. But I said to him, man, can you imagine? And those coaches, man, I mean, they might look sharp in their suits. And these guys are grinding. And the assistants, okay? I mean, they are grinding. They're in their offices all night watching film, trying to make adjustments from one game to the next, opponent to the next. And I said to my son, you're too young to remember. I mean, can you imagine having a guy like Pat Riley to fall back on if you got some questions about something? And, of course, my son, who's so young, he knows nothing about Pat Riley. I mean, Pat Riley is one of the top 5 coaches of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And he runs the Miami Heat. And, he runs it with an iron fist, man. He's got his thumb on the pulse of everything happening with that team. And when you start to read more and more about them, now these articles are going to come up as they're winning. But we had said here on the show that, the common thinking around was that Miami had some bad breaks, they had some injuries, so on and so forth, but that they were healthy and ready to go when the playoffs started, even as an 8th seed. Well, they barely beat the Bulls to get in that playoff game, one-game playoff. But since then, it's no contest.
They've only lost 3 games.
Yeah.
Tom. 3.
Yeah, they destroy Milwaukee, right? Then they just, 5 games over the Knicks? Wasn't even a series. And here we are 3-0 on Boston. 128-102 yesterday. 3 games to none there. Tonight, Denver can officially wrap up the Western Conference Finals. That's out in L.A. Nuggets lead that series 3 games to none. Again, no contest. None. And the Nuggets have never beaten the Lakers in a postseason series. This is the 8th time they have played them in a playoff series, and they're 1 win away from beating them for the first time. On the college front, now, Paulie, help me with this. UC landed 7-footer Aziz Banduogo. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
No, you're guessing, too.
I think, well.
Bandago.
Or is it Ego? Or is it Ego?
It's a good question. I only saw him play the 1 game this year against UC in the NIT.
And in that game against Utah Valley, right, who eliminated UC. He scored 15 points and had 12 rebounds. He averaged 11 points and 11 rebounds per game during the season. Now, some are going to say, okay, it's Utah Valley. What's their competition? Well, they played UC, and he played great.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and talk a ton about him. I haven't really watched any film on him yet, and that's the only game that I saw him play live. So I don't really have a ton of thoughts on this, but we might have Chad Brendel coming up.
Yes, we
later.
might. We're waiting. Chad has a show at 11 o'clock. He's hoping when he gets off that show that he can join us. And, look, he's tuned into everything with both UC football and UC basketball on the recruiting front, and both of them are doing very, very well in football and basketball recruiting, whether it's a portal or whether it's high school guys. And then there's FC Cincinnati. They were not perfect. They weren't perfect. They blew a 2-goal lead, right?
Yep.
And then they come away with a 3-2 win. I guess there was some huge goalie gaffe I read about. Is that right? It was a game-winning goal for FC? Anyway, it's the hell is real matchup. FC Cincinnati sports the best record in the MLS, and they are now 8-0 at home, where they sell out every game.
That atmosphere looked electric.
It really did.
I was talking to somebody yesterday who had never been to an FC Cincinnati match and went down there for the first time on Saturday night and was just telling me how much fun they had and how great the atmosphere was and the game production and everything else. And then, of course, the actual game on the pitch was a lot of fun too. But FC just does such a good job with that. And it was all over the country, nationally on Twitter and everything else. The game was trending, and it turned out to be a great match. FC's second goal, I think, came on a penalty. Mm-hmm. I didn't see the game winner. I was actually, I
didn't get to see it either.
I was very busy Saturday and Sunday, so I did not see the game winner, but I was reading about everything, so I kind of got the gist of everything that happened. Went back and watched some of the highlights. But yeah, it seemed like a great time. From all the pictures, I had a ton of friends down there. And from all the pictures and the videos and everything everybody was sending, it looked like just an incredible atmosphere. They just continue to deliver time after time after time.
To be fair to FC, I know you said that they gave up their lead. Columbus Crew and their play style is very, I would say that it is the weakness of FC's play style, at least on defense. So
they're a pretty wide open, high scoring team, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Columbus.
This was pretty much what everyone expected the game to be like. A 3-2 matchup, deciding goal being FC. I'll tell you what, though. FC, if they're getting hot, like if Acosta is getting hot and we get Vasquez really getting going, with some of these other guys that are new to the team that are now also starting to step up, this offense is getting back to where it was last year. And if that's the case,
yeah.
Well, and the defense has, 6 shutouts?
Yeah.
Clean sheets, Tom.
Clean sheets.
Pardon me. 6 clean sheets this season.
That's right.
Nothing like clean sheets.
I mean, I know
but you got to score to win, so you make a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that I know right now they're at the top of the standings, but I think they deserve to be there. I think they are the best.
Top of the table, Casey. Come on.
Top of the table,
Boy,
standings,
Casey, if I can't count on you for getting the jargon right, who can?
I'm just playing around. Just playing around.
But for one, I'm not one for jargon and whatnot. That's not me. But
we're Americans here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say whatever. But
exactly
anyways,
right.
FC's the best.
Stinking Europeans. We've been carrying their water for 100+ years. Go ahead.
FC is the best team right now in Cincinnati. Right now. Yeah. I would even say they might be, in terms of if you're going to compare the Bengals to FC in their league, FC might be better than the Bengals.
Oh, well, I mean,
they're the best team in the MLS right now. 100%.
Well, you said all year the Bengals were the best team in the AFC. In the NFL, you had them number 1 on your stink list all the time.
I know, but
look what happened. There was an interesting article, though, written over the weekend, I think, by Mr. Williams, about, okay, is it time now? They're clearly good enough to have the best team, but this is the same thing we talk about with the Bengals. It's one thing to have the best team, right, in the regular season. And Lord knows, for us to get to the postseason in soccer, Casey will look like a member of Duck Dynasty.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a long time from now. Plus, you take a month break, which for teams that are playing well is not good for momentum. Heal some injuries, some nicks and bruises and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but the question was, and that we were getting at, we talk about it all the time with the Bengals. You follow it closely enough, Casey, where, okay, they have the best record right now, but is this team built to win in the postseason? And I bring that up because, I can fall back on, let's say, baseball. And I could have told you, I did. I was doing the games. The Atlanta Braves won their division 13 years in a row. Can you imagine that in any sport? The closest thing was Tom Brady while he was in New England. They won one World Series. One. And the reason why is because as great as that trio was of pitching, of Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, all Hall of Famers. As great as that trio was, the postseason is built on power pitching, missing bats. That's what it's all about in the postseason. And Maddox was not a flamethrower. Glavine was not a flamethrower. Great pitchers. But go look up their postseason numbers and compare them to Smoltz. It's not saying those guys were chokers. You're playing the very, very best of the best, right? And there aren't going to be high-scoring games. But Maddox and Glavine, their regular season numbers are nowhere close to their postseason numbers. Smoltz was. So I'm asking you, in a circuitous way,
Yes.
is FC Cincinnati built to win in the postseason?
I do think they are.
Why?
Mainly because they've got the star power. They've got their defense pretty much figured out. They've got the offense starting to fire on all cylinders. They're hot right now.
Problem is the season is so long.
Yeah, I get that. The way I would describe it too is that after this year, you're looking at a potential loss of a lot of your star power. We're already losing Brenner. You might lose Vasquez. Acosta's really good. I don't know why he's not been swept up by any other team. But those guys, if we can keep those guys together, that core, and then some of these pieces that have developed really nicely, if they just continue to stay healthy, I think that they can make a serious push for a championship. I really do.
Tommy G made the comment about some of the players you made reference to, that if offensively some of those guys can start to be the offensive players you think they are, and they've proven in the past they are. Be hard to imagine that FC Cincinnati, with as good as their defense is, that they're going to allow 3 goals in a game. Is that fair?
Right. And to be fair, they only lost to last year's champion or runner-up by 1. Like they could have won that game. I think really what just happened there was that they just couldn't score, but it was a very close game. It wasn't like they were out of it or they were completely outmatched. I think they could have won it last year. So they're really just building upon what they already built last year, if you ask me. And it even shows in the actual table, they have 30 points. They have a plus
table
7.
would be standings for the rest of humankind, correct?
That's right,
Correct.
Tom.
Thank you.
Correct.
Learning. We're learning.
They have the most points in the MLS league right now. They have a plus 7 goal differential, which isn't the best, but it's up there. It's one of the top 5 in goal differentials. I mean, they only have 1 loss on the season too.
Yep.
I mean, this team is really good right now.
They're grooving.
I got to tell you, Paul brings up a great point, because I think it was our friend Lance McAllister who sent it out on Twitter, wherever he was sitting. He took the video from one end of the stadium, comes across to the other end of the stadium, And, man, I got to tell you, rarely do I get fired up about watching, a video that somebody sent out on Twitter. But I got to tell you, it made me want to go down there. Never been there.
That's what I was just saying. You talk to people that haven't been there. Look, I'm not going to sit here and stump for soccer. I understand it's gonna always be tough for this sport to catch on in the United States. I get it. I enjoy it. I really enjoy watching it. But I'm not going to sit here and try and beat the drum and convince everybody about the sport. If you either like it or you don't. But
well, I think you can come to like it if you
can.
I have it a little bit better, right?
I have very much come to like it, but that's partly because I have broadcasted it, have seen it, and it's such a different experience when you're in it all the time and watching it than it is just like flipping on one World Cup match and you know. But what my overall point here though is even if you don't like the sport, just going down there and experiencing the city, it's so different because the culture of the people down there are very different than the culture of the people with the Reds or the Bengals. The culture of the games is different. Everything about the experience.
Even the area. Like, most people are familiar with the banks.
Yeah.
Most people enjoy, after games, going to the banks. OTR is just different.
It's unreal.
It's
unreal. I mean, I told you guys I was down there for a charity event a few weeks ago, and they were playing on the same night.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And Casey, that's a great point about it's a different area of town. It's a different vibe of the town, right?
Right.
And mass amounts of people are walking. Now you'll get a lot of that with the Bengals game, and the same thing where people are walking. But I mean, they got bands and people banging on drums, and I mean, it's crazy.
It is.
Yeah. The stadium, the crowd atmosphere is very hot and electric the entire 90+ minutes. That's one thing I'll say. Like, you have a lot of breaks in between for football, for like commercial breaks. You got in between innings. Really, baseball is just it doesn't get very electric most of the time. There's very few moments. But for soccer, it's always cheering, chanting, nonstop the entire game. And not only that, most people that I talk to want to watch a winning product. You're going to see some winning football on the field, on the pitch, if you go.
Or soccer on the pitch.
Soccer on the pitch, however you want to call it.
It's still soccer.
Soccer on the pitch if you go down and watch FC this year. So I suggest you guys go. This is going to be one of those times where you don't know what's going to happen next year.
What's a normal, if you were to jump on, because I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't assume this, are all of their games sold out now, like for the rest of the year? Would you have to go to some ticket out? No, you can buy tickets still to a game. What do they cost?
You can get in for like $25.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, you can get really good seats for like $50-$60.
Well, now you're starting to get up there a little bit. I mean, 50, 60. I'm not saying that's not chicken scratch.
No, but you can get in the door. TQL.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, there can't be many bad seats, right?
No.
Seats, what, 20-something thousand?
I think a sellout. They announced at 25,000.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've sat at the top and it's been perfectly fine.
Yeah. What I was saying is just like if you want on the lower bowl and you want to sit in the middle, it's like $50. So that's
fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. We got a lot to talk about today. Like I said, we got Ricky Horton coming up at 11. We'll talk about the Reds and the Cardinal series starting tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the Reds over the weekend. Like to hear your thoughts on the chat. Many of you by the thousands watching already. Also going to get into this Bengals Ring of Honor thing. They've given a name of, a list of names that is just, there's some great names on there. Some guys that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But this is about who belongs in the quote-unquote Bengals Hall of Fame, which, by the way, the Brown family, they've got Katie and Troy who are kind of running the thing. Then you got the daughters who are super smart and doing all the social media stuff. It is time for the Bengals, with everything going on down there, it is time for them to build a Hall of Fame. After the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, the Reds Hall of Fame is the next best Hall of Fame that there is in the country. I'm telling you. All right, and I'm talking about for one sport. You have the big one, the Football Hall of Fame's unreal, basketball. But I'm just saying, you got the Baseball Hall of Fame, then the next best one is the Reds. In the NFL, you have the Football Hall of Fame, and then you have the Patriots. It's unreal what they did out there at Gillette Stadium and right outside the building they put up and the fan experience stuff. Remember the playoff game where they kicked the field goal in the snow? They've got a little thing in there, right? They got a thing in there where it's snowing all the time, and you go in there and try to kick the field goal up against a video board. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, right? The Bengals need a Hall of Fame. This is nice, a Ring of Honor. I know it's baby steps, and they've come a long way just in the last couple of years, and good for them. But it's time for them now to go all in on a Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about some of the names that are up. And it's always so tough. Paul pointed out, we were having the conversation off air, beforehand. When you're doing this from the very start, and you're trying to cover 50 years, in this case, of a franchise that's never won a Super Bowl, you're playing catch-up, right? I mean, every one of the names on this list will end up one day in the Ring of Honor. But there are a lot of these men who are up there in their 70s, if not their 80s. So a lot of fans, younger fans, say, oh, Shoshinko, got to go in. Chad Johnson, got to be in. Well, there's no doubt that he should be in. But what about Bob Trumpy, who revolutionized the sport of football as a tight end, thanks to having Paul Brown as his head coach? He was the first guy that would line off the tackle, not next to him. Every team in pro football, right? You have the 5 offensive linemen and the tight end right there in the line of scrimmage, right? Trumpy was the first guy they split out. He was such a phenomenal athlete, 4-time Pro Bowler. What about Leapin' Lamar Parrish? Right? Unbelievable player. Most people will tell you one of the reasons Kenny Riley is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year is because Lamar Parrish was on the other side of the field and nobody tested the guy. Most people felt like for about a 5, 6, 7-year run, Parrish was the best cornerback in the league. That's taking nothing away from Kenny Riley. Don't misunderstand me. But what I'm saying is, what I'm getting at is, there are guys that are older guys. You want to put guys in when they're alive. I saw firsthand, and I've told the story before on this show, nothing was more heartbreaking or got me mentally angry, pissed, really pissed. And I don't like using that word, so forgive me. But angry, like what baseball did to Ron Santo. Because Ron Santo was like an older brother to me. I love that man as much as one man could love another man. I worked with him for 6 years doing the Cubs games on radio. We stayed great friends forever. We spent time socially together all the time. During the season, in the off season, I moved to Arizona. He made his winter home out there. And every single year, Hall of Fame voting would come out. First, it was the writers, year after year after. This is Santo's year. Headlines in the Chicago papers in the dead of winter when you're ready to find out about it. This is Ronnie's year. It's our guy Ronnie's year. Well, it never came. Then comes the Veterans Committee, who are supposed to, sort of make up for the misses that the writers had, right? Joe Morgan used to head up that thing. They go 2 years and don't put anybody in, including Ron Santo. So what happens to Ron Santo? He grew up a diabetic. He's getting older. Like many diabetics, he's starting to have blood flow problems down in his feet and in his legs. They amputate one leg. He recovers. They amputate a second leg. He recovers and still broadcasts the Cubs games while still waiting for that call from the Hall of Fame. Then he died. And guess what happened? The next year, he goes into the Hall of Fame. his wife, Vicky, did the acceptance speech. So look, while this Bengals Ring of Honor thing may not be on the same level as the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame or the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right? For some of these guys, this is a big deal. This is the biggest deal. They haven't played in 40, 50 years, some of these guys. And all the younger generation, or many of us, younger, I'm not young, but the guys your age, we only remember. There are a lot of guys running around who don't even remember Collinsworth as a player, and a great player, and he's on that list. So we're going to talk more about this when we come back, because this is a good, healthy, interesting discussion. And we're going to get into who's voting on it now. A little perplexing to me here on who's voting on this deal. But we'll get to that in a second. Ham and Eggers, here we go.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great, trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
All right, we have a lot to talk about here with the Bengals coming up. So the Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and
productivity.
Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here.
So close.
Also, a new premium alkaline water. And we talked about this last weekend. They are the official, this is Pawnee. Oh, there's one right here. Hold on. Let me get it. Right here. Right here. They are the official water of the River's Edge concert series for this summer in Hamilton in 2023. The sole water provider of that event all summer long. They use natural limestone filtration, and they are made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. The result of this natural limestone filtration is a healthy alkaline water that also results in the best tasting water in the world. You can buy their water, either one, at pawneewater.com, and that's PAHHNI water.com, PAHHNI water.com, or you can find it in stores. Casey found it in a store the other day, found it in a gas station. Reed was in a gas station the other day, got a good look at it.
And our best man of the program, Thomas, he found it on the Purple People Bridge for the event that they had there, the tequila, or not tequila.
Yeah, Margarita Madness.
Margarita Madness, yeah.
On the Purple People Bridge, that was 5:30 to 8:30 the other night. And they...
he took a picture of it.
Yep.
I'm going to pull it up here in just a minute. But, yeah, if you guys find it, please feel free to send it to us on Twitter or anywhere that you can reach us on the Discord. We haven't pubbed that in a while. But, yeah, we would love to have it so then we can share the good word of Pawnee, because Pawnee's growing, and it's good. Really good for you. So, please, send us some photos of you drinking some Pawnee water. We want you to be healthy, right? Stay hydrated.
Drink Pawnee water, get your coffee from UDF, bet with Bedfred, and get your technology solutions from Encore.tech. One last thing before we get back to the Bengals here. Just real quick, we don't need to really spend too much time on it, but Carmelo Anthony did retire. A legend. Never got his title. Did win several Olympic gold medals and won a national championship with Syracuse, but never got that NBA title. All right, back to the Bengals we go, Tom, and the voting process and everything else for this Ring of Honor.
Okay, so I don't know how they came up with the original list of names, but whoever came up with the list of names, whether it was fans or the Bengals, kudos. Phenomenal list of names. I mean, golly day. If you're old enough to remember all of them, great. If you're old enough, say guys my age, to remember most of them, great. Younger guys, great. And all of them come with a little, sort of different tale, right? So do we have a list of those names somewhere?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So let's put these names up. And I mean, look at some of these names, right? Jim Breach, greatest kicker in franchise history. For me, without a doubt, best running back in franchise history. It's not even debatable as an all-around player is James Brooks. Collinsworth, he was the franchise leader in multiple categories when he retired. Corey Dillon's the all-time leading rusher. Boomer Esiason, second most passing yards. I believe he was second, or maybe Andy Dalton leapfrogged him. Took him to a Super Bowl. David Fulcher, phenomenal player. Out of Arizona State, safety, bruiser, tough, cared. Chad Johnson, leading receiver in virtually every category there is. Receiving. Tim Crumry, heart and soul of the defense, the team that went to the Super Bowl out of Wisconsin. Two offensive linemen, both all-pro players, multiple times all-pro players. Max Montoya lined up alongside Anthony Munoz, Dave Lapham on the other side. Both of those guys helped lead high-powered offenses going to a Super Bowl. We talked about leaping Lamar Parrish. All the return touchdowns, interceptions returned for touchdowns. Team leader all time. Bob Trumpy, talked about him a moment ago, out of Illinois. And then Reggie Williams, who, of course, became eventually a city councilman, played football in the Ivy League, and was a great linebacker for the Bengals. Now, the way this works from here, Bengals season ticket holders and suite holders are the only ones at this point allowed to vote. So, and look, there's no right way or wrong way on this deal, okay? I'm not going to beat the Bengals up for allowing the people who spend a lot of money and are emotionally invested in the franchise. And I know that many of you out there are emotionally invested in the franchise. Maybe you can only afford to go one game a year. I get it, okay? I get it. But that's the group of people that will decide the final two. And two will go in. So, let me ask you guys this question. Before I ask you who you would put in, do you think that the season ticket holders and the suite holders who are going to decide the two for this year, and I'm assuming that'll be one of the first games of the year, home game, maybe not the season opener at home, but last year they did it on that Thursday night against Jacksonville, if I remember right? Or against who they do it against last year?
Miami.
Okay. If you had a vote, would you take into account the age of the player? Yay or nay?
I certainly would. Look, we all know Chad deserves to be in there. We all know Corey deserves to be in there. Heck, I would even say we all know Boomer and Chris all deserve to be in there. But I think football is bigger than just what you did on the field. I think being an organization that is always thought of as family built, this organization that didn't really stoop to the level of some of these other big programs like Dallas. I know Dallas is probably not a good example, but we are a family-owned team, right?
Yes. Well, Dallas is a good example. They're a family-owned team. Same thing. One guy bought them.
Right, but I'm just saying, we should be holding different values than other teams, and I think we should take age into effect, because I don't want to see another Ken Riley situation. I don't want to put in a guy that has passed away when we could have done it before. Those guys know that they're going to be in there at some point. They can wait their turn. Chad Johnson knows he'll be in our Ring of Honor at some point. Let's get in the guys that may not live to see it first. Okay? That's all I'm saying. And I don't think that's a terrible take, but I feel like people would take stats over the age thing, and I think that's just dumb because I think football's bigger than that.
Well, just interject real quick because you bring up something that's interesting, and that would be stats. The game has changed so much. So for a guy like Trumpy, I'll pick him. You know, he's like 8th or 9th all time in the franchise history in receiving yards, and he's right there somewhere in receptions and that kind of thing. They weren't throwing the ball a lot, period, back in those days. It was a different game. So, you know, trying to compare, you know, his numbers to somebody else, they're not going to stack up. Paul, for you, age play into it or not?
Yeah, age would play into it. I think when we talk about voting on this with the season ticket holders and the suite holders and everything like that for this, it doesn't really bother me because you can't go wrong with a list like this. And that was my point to you before the show, that when you're starting a Ring of Honor like this from scratch, 5-10 years down the line, once you've gotten some of these guys in who deserve to be in, we all know deserve to be in, any combination of two of these guys getting in is a win. You can't get this wrong. So it doesn't really matter. And to your point, really the only way you could get it wrong was if you left out somebody who then passed away before you could get them in. So from that angle, all that to me is to say, yes, I would vote on the older guys first to be able to get them in, ahead of some of these younger guys. But again, this is not something that the Bengals can get wrong. Like, it's too easy to do this from any one of these guys, so it doesn't matter, really, to me. You can't get it wrong. As far as who's voting.
All right, then let me get right to it. And by the way, a couple people have pointed out, why isn't this guy in, that guy in? The people that are already there are Kenny Anderson, Paul Brown, Anthony Munoz, Willie Anderson, Isaac Curtis, and Ken Riley. So a lot of people have been asking about Isaac Curtis. He's already in. All right, so with that in mind, if you're going to play, you're going to at least take it into account. The other thing I would ask, are you going to take into account? Now, this Ring of Honor is for what someone has done for the franchise. Okay? Most of these guys on the field.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this, right?
Right.
Dave Lapham. Great player. One of the best at his position in the NFL for a long time. This guy was a gamer and a great player. He's also been your radio analyst for 25 years.
Yep.
Does that come into effect when you're voting? All right. So, Casey, you said you were going to take age into account. But that doesn't mean that's going to be your, exclusive reason for putting somebody in. With that list, who are you putting in? You got two guys. If you voted, who would they be?
If I have two guys, if I have two choices, I'm probably going with Lamar Parrish. And I didn't want to go Dave because I think he's still on the healthier side, but
he's not.
I know he's not young, but he is healthier.
Who?
No, I was saying barring an emergency situation, I don't think Dave's going anywhere anytime soon.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And I don't know the health of these guys. I do know Lamar and Bob are the oldest on this list, right? So Lamar would be my first. Probably Dave would be my next one. I think those are my two. I think Bob is third for me.
Okay.
And then after that, I don't know who the next.
I'll take Boomer. Give me Boomer and Lamar.
Boomer and Lamar.
Give me Boomer and Lamar.
Okay.
It'd be kind of cool to see Boomer and Chris or Boomer and Dave.
Yeah.
Teammates both go in on the same team. But yeah, for me it's Lamar and Dave. I think those are my two that I'd pick if I was a voter.
Okay.
What about you?
Age is very much gonna be a big factor for me because of the Sandoz story I shared a little while ago. I think this would mean the world to Trumpy, who's made his home here all these years, raised his kids here. He revolutionized the game for his position. I would put Trumpy and Lamar Parrish in. Those would be my two for this year. But every one of them is deserving. You know, I've brought up here about, looking down the road. And maybe one of the younger guys goes in. Because there's no doubt each and every one of those guys on there deserves it. You've got Ocho Cinco, the all-time leader in their respective categories, rushing and receiving, right? Corey Dillon. But James Brooks, I've said it before, was a better player than Corey Dillon. Different kind of player, but a better all-around player. Whether it was running, whether it was receiving, his yards per carry far higher. Now he had far fewer carries than Dillon. Was higher. His receiving numbers were insane, and he was one of the best return guys in the NFL. Kickoffs, punts, you name it, he did it. Great blocker, whole 9 yards. Dillon, great player, workhorse, man, but a lot of baggage here near the end. Right?
Right.
Ocho Cinco. Look, people around here might love him. Not everybody around here loves him. There was a lot going on there. That tired act, and I was at the game. I had just moved to Cincinnati, moved back. That tired act of walking around with a Hall of Fame jacket during a game, season opener, tired. Really tired. But that's just me. Maybe you guys thought it was cool.
I think that alone should have got him in.
Oh, my God.
Ain't no one going to stop number 85.
He was a great player. I mean, listen, great player. And it's too bad he played on some terrible teams. Good Lord, did he play with some terrible teams. But Chad is a legend, no question. And seems like a great dude.
Absolutely.
He does.
Spot him down at the Covington McDonald's anytime.
He's at the Covington McDonald's?
Oh, my. Honest to God, Tom, I think if you go to the Covington McDonald's at any point during the day, there's like a 50% chance you might run into him getting a double cheeseburger.
But he's still in great shape, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm in great shape. I love McDonald's.
Have you ever heard of him talking about his diet?
Well, I've heard others talk about going on. That one guy that went on for 1 year, nothing but a McDonald's exclusive diet. He's in the best shape he's ever been in his life.
It's crazy.
So Ocho, he's down there. His diet is like that, and T-Bell, and
Oh no, I think it's just McDonald's. Honestly, I've never heard him say anything else, but
He's an exclusive McDonald's partner.
he loves McDonald's.
but Chad doesn't live here. Does he? Live here?
I think he does.
I thought he was down in Miami.
Is he? He might.
I don't know.
But he's in town a lot.
Yeah.
He's in town enough to make you think he lives here if he doesn't.
Okay.
get
Yeah,
into
Everett points out he's always around when you see him. He goes to games, whole 9 yards. He'll have a cigar, take a picture with you anytime you want. Yeah, seems like a fun dude. Sir Boy Wonder. He votes for Boomer and Chris. Boomer and Chris are going to get a lot of votes.
Yeah.
In fact, if I were handicapping this thing, your top 3 most likely to go in, who would your 3 be?
My 3 would definitely be Boomer, Chris, and Chad.
Yep. Spot on. No doubt. All right, if you had to narrow it down to 2 that are going in, if we're just handicapping this, what 2 you think get the most votes? I'm betting Chris and Boomer.
I would say Boomer and Chad because I think there's a stigma around Chris. I think a lot of fans here in Cincinnati feel like Chris turned against us. He's like this.
That is
figure.
nonsense.
Yeah, I think it's a terrible take too. Chris is just doing his job as an analyst on, regardless, I think there's a lot of tired takes about Chris, a lot of negative opinions on him. So that's why I would say Chad over him. But I don't think that's the way it should be, but that's what I would say if it was just 2. What about you?
Boomer, and then I'm trying to decide between Chris or Chad. I'm going to probably say Chad. I'm going to probably lean Chad. I'm thinking of the season ticket holder demographic. I'm thinking of the people that have recently surged in buying season tickets lately since the Bengals have been better. I'm going to probably say Chad gets the nod here. But maybe it'll be I don't know. I think it's Boomer. I think Boomer's one of them. And then the other one is Chris or Chad. And I'm going to say Chad.
So you're saying who in Chad?
Boomer and Chad.
Boomer and Chad. Okay. All right. Yeah, and look. I saw it firsthand, and I've talked to Joe Buck about this at length many, many times, about how, in, say, Joe's case, he's broadcasting the World Series for Fox. Born and raised St. Louis, his dad, legendary voice of the Cardinals. He was a voice for a short time of the Cardinals. But now he's doing the World Series with the Cardinals against the Boston Red Sox. And I mean, every Cardinal fan in the world thinks he's rooting for Boston and that he's turned on the Cardinals. Ridiculous. Chris Collinsworth is paid to do a job. And if the Bengals are good, he's going to say they're good. And if they stink, he's going to say they stink. And they have stunk for a lot of years since he retired. Now they're starting to get on those prime times games, and Chris is working those games, and he'll talk them up when they're playing well. So anybody's holding anything against Collinsworth, it's absurd. One guy that's not on that list, and you've heard me talk about him, and we're going to have him on the podcast or have him on the show, is Mike Reed. Mike Reed is the most fascinating story of all of them because of all of those guys you just saw on that list right there. Trust me when I tell you this. All of the guys that are on that list for this year, not one of them is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If Mike Reed had not quit after his 5th year in the league, he would be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You can mark it down. He was that great and that dominant. Pro Bowler 4 times in his first 5 years, shattered all the sacks records for guys their first year in the league, second year in the league, third year in the league, fourth year in the league, fifth year in the league, and then quit to go become a musician and a songwriter for some of the biggest stars in the music business. Makes his home now down in Nashville. He should be on that list, even with 5 years in. You can make that much of a difference 5 years in. He'll get in one day. All right, we're waiting on Ricky Horton. Great take from many of you. Ronnie Smith says, Boomer's the only one of these guys who can be real talking about the Bengals on the air. And I don't get mad if he says something bad because it's the truth.
Everyone that's currently in chat, please hit that like button, subscribe. We'll be talking more Bengals, Reds, FC.
And you can subscribe in podcast form, too. If there's anything you want to go back and listen to later, if you're in the car, if you're doing whatever, go back, search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman on all the podcast platforms, and everything's there. Podcast still steadily growing, Tom.
It is?
Day after day. Podcast just keeps climbing.
I tell you, I have more people that randomly come up to me, and I mean, I'm taken aback by it. And I say this with the most humility. I'm just stunned by some of the people who say, man, I saw, blah, blah, blah on the show yesterday. I'm thinking, really? So, thank all of you who are dialed in, whether it's live and our regular, always growing list in the chat, or those of you that are downloading in podcast form. We certainly appreciate it. All right, what else we got here? Any other comments before we get to Ricky Horton?
Well, I know what we can talk about before he comes on.
What's that?
That's just the Reds over the weekend.
You were down there.
I was down there Friday. Friday was an interesting experience. Just so many things were happening. I know it didn't probably feel like that for most people watching at home, but we had some parlays.
Oh, yeah.
We had some crazy moments where I was right by the home run hit from Rizzo on Friday.
When I saw that ball off the bat, I legitimately thought there was a chance you might catch that home run.
Yeah, there was a chance. If I would have ran up, I could have reached out my hand and grabbed it. One of the people that were in front of the glass shield, they actually like screamed for a second because I thought it was gonna hit their kid.
Sure.
And they jumped and whatnot. But it was crazy. I was that close. Never had that happen before. I haven't been to very many Reds games.
Real quick, can you resend that to Ricky?
Yes,
I want to make sure this get me off camera here for a second.
Okay.
I want to make sure that he didn't misprint something on this email because that one of the letters in there did not look right to me.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, the Reds over the weekend, I think most of us said, we really wanted to see them at least squeak out a win, not get swept by the Yankees to kind of prove that they were going in the right direction. This was Matt McClain's first home stint, and it just didn't quite happen. There was a lot of close fly balls that could have just barely made it if they were in different stadiums, I'm sure. But it just wasn't the Reds' weekend.
Really, the only thing I would like a take on from Tom from this weekend, there was a lot that happened, and Tom, I know you're going through the email right now, so but something that we probably should talk a little bit about is just this entire debacle that happened on Friday night with the sticky substance and why Clark Schmidt was able to continue in that game or why David Bell was thrown out of the game. Either one. If anybody was going to be thrown out of the game, it feels like the one thrown out of the game should have been Clark Schmidt. I don't understand. I still don't. I went back and I watched it again yesterday because I went to the game on Friday. I was a late addition to the game, got a free ticket on Friday night. And so I went down to the game. I went up to get a beer. And when I was coming back down to my seats, David Bell was out because it was in between innings. And
right.
Clark Schmidt went and got the glove check in between innings. So when I came back, everything had happened, and I kind of missed everything. Then David Bell gets thrown out. Clark Schmidt comes back in the game. And I had a really busy weekend, so I didn't really get a chance to go back and read a ton about what happened. And so last night I'm sitting there, I'm reading some things over to get ready for the show today, and I went back and I watched the highlight of it. And then I watched the argument with David Bell, and I still don't understand why David Bell got thrown out of the game, or if, okay, David Bell gets thrown out of the game, why Clark Schmidt didn't get thrown out of the game. I don't understand the dynamic. I did not know that you're allowed to go back and wash your hands. I know that's what happened with Max Scherzer, but then Scherzer ended up getting suspended for 10 games. I don't understand. Yeah. I truly don't understand. Yeah. Zadak said the same thing on the air. So did Barry Larkin.
The umps were terrible this weekend. I mean, that wasn't the first. That was the first of David Bell's ejections over this series.
Yeah, he got ejected yesterday. Because I thought yesterday, when I went back and watched the highlights, I thought I was watching the same thing. Then I realized it was Sunday's game. I mean, I just don't understand what happened.
Well, for those of you, they pay so much attention now to this spin rate thing, and it's become a big part of analytics, right? And a lot of pitchers are using that tool to get a gauge on, how good is their curveball, how good is their slider. Well, apparently, the Yankees starter on Friday night, who was having a terrible year, and we talked about it before the game on Friday, giving up 8 home runs in 480 innings. ERA 6.5. He's not getting anybody out. Well, all of a sudden, as this game's going on, the spin rate on his curveball and slider is by far better than it's been in any game all year long. And David Bell's looking at this stuff going, what's going on out there? Ricky Horton says it's really weird. It popped up on his email and then disappeared. Can we send it again? So he's trying.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, so that's when David Bell says, hold on a minute now. Let's check this out for something. And look, you never really get the whole lowdown on exactly what happened because most of the time umpires are a little bit reluctant to get into that whole kind of thing, although now you can't talk to them after the game in some cases. And, the manager, sometimes they'll kind of give you the whole lowdown. Whether or not he should have been thrown out Friday night is debatable. Yesterday, there are just certain things you can't say. And the whole world could see him or hear him for what he said, which was basically his opinion of their work over the entire weekend. And tomorrow we're going to have Ted Barrett on the show, who's considered to be one of the best umpires in all of Major League Baseball, if not the very best. Fred says the Reds should try cheating.
I guess they're not trying if they're not trying to win if they don't cheat. But, man, what a bad look, honestly. I mean, if you're trying to turn a whole fan base against just the officiating in the MLB in general, what better way to do it than against the Yankees, right?
It was a very bizarre situation. I still don't understand it. I'd like to read some sort of a clarification on it. I don't know. Casey, you want to go to commercial and real quick and try and figure this out?
Yeah, because he keeps saying that it's popping up on his email and then literally disappears when he goes to click it. So that might be on his end more than our end, sounds like.
Yeah, we'll throw it to a break.
All right. We'll take a timeout. We're back in just a minute.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
Presented by United Dairy Farmers. We're trying to work our way through, and we've got him. Fantastic. Ricky Horton, long-time pitcher in the big leagues, had great success, and he has, I got to ask him how many years now. I mean, it seems like it's going on forever that he's been in the TV booth for the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, Ricky, good morning. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for your patience, and welcome into town. How many years you been in the booth now?
Well, I guess not get on this call right, but it's been 25, Tom. So it's 25 years in radio now, but it's been such a great journey. I've been around a lot of great people. Kind of how our world is, and it's been a great ride.
You know, Ricky, before we talk about the Cardinals, you've done so much great work through the years with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's an organization that just does phenomenal. I mean, all the way down to youth level. You see it a lot in colleges, and certainly, on and on and on and on, and the influence it has and the effect it has on young people all over the country, and for that matter, all over the world. What got you started in that group?
Well, Tom, I'm thankful that you brought that up because it's my heartbeat. I mean, I like to say that FCA is my DNA. I mean, a lot of letters, but that's the fact. I mean, it's combining the reality of the athletic world and the people of sport with Christian faith, and I just love the connection of those two things. I'm kind of it just kind of hits me right at the core. And I first got involved because people asked me to go to an FCA meeting when I was in college. But when I came to St. Louis, our chaplain, longtime chaplain of the Cardinals, in fact, he was the chaplain for 40 years for the Cardinals. He about a month or so ago, Walt Enoch, did a Bible study for the players. And he was the FCA director at the time, and I got volunteering. I essentially took his place after playing, and then kind of did some of that. And I'm still actually on staff with FCA, but kind of more in the broadcasting world now. But I've kind of done both at the same time since playing. But Walt's influence was extraordinary, and I just love the work because I think coaches have such great influence. We want to the influence.
I want to talk to you about the Cardinals a little bit. You know, the team starts out huge expectations, rightfully so. Generally, that's the case every year in St. Louis. It's one of the model franchises in all the professional sports. But things start out, and they're not going so well. Situation early in the year where Marmol benches a player, feeling like he's not running very hard. You've got all these kinds of things going on. The losses are piling up. And look, you know St. Louis better than anybody. They expect to win around there. And when they don't win, people are getting upset. What was it like there at the very start of the year until we'll get to the Cardinals and the way they're playing now here in a moment? But what's that been like, the start of this team this year?
It was very different, Tom. There were games in a row where the game ended and one game was lost and then lost in the middle of the game, but it was both bad losses. And the Cardinal fans booed. I mean, pretty loudly. And that is almost, I don't ever remember that in all my years of being around Cardinal baseball. I mean, it's almost like they would have preferred to just sit on their hands and just not kind of say anything and just be silent than actually boo. But it was hard because last worst record in the National League at one point, and losing all those games in a row. 10-24 was the record. 14 games under 500, and there was no real way out. I mean, everybody knew. I think everybody deep down thought the team would be better, and knew the team should be better. Came out of spring training, best team in the Grapefruit League in spring training. Everything was going great, but man, it just nothing worked. The starting pitching was terrible. The defense was okay. The hitting was not really great and not very timely. And then the Cardinals were 1-8 and 1-7 or 1-8 in one-run games. So all the things that you think are trademark Cardinal things just weren't happening.
Okay, so what happened, or when did you see, or when did you sense that, okay, this thing now is starting to possibly get rolling? I mean, you're never really rolling until you're above 500 and you kick it into gear, go 8, 10, 12, 15 over. But when did you sense that maybe it's starting to get right?
Yeah, so when the Cardinals aren't rolling yet, but they're so that's what they were doing early on, digging a big hole, unfortunately. I think it started during the break series. Cardinals had an inning where they scored 5 runs. Felt like, okay, this is the offense that we thought was going to. And really, I think that two things happened. The Cardinals took a couple of steps back to take 5 steps forward, and one of them was, kind of taking a timeout, and a pause is the word that Oli Marmol used with Wilson Contreras behind the plate, because there was not great trust, and trust is the word he's using. Not a lot of that going on between catcher and pitchers that didn't know him. So there was kind of just a long kind of re-education about kind of how we should do things with each pitcher. That was helpful. And it also coincided with Nolan Arenado starting. When Nolan started to hit, everybody remembered, okay, we can hit too. And I think he's still the leader as far as that's concerned. That guy struggling the way Nolan did, affects everybody.
I think we're having some problems with Ricky and the connection here. We'll see if it looks like he's coming back here for a second. We lost you there for a minute there, Ricky. When I want to go back real quick, if you don't mind, to the Marmol thing early in the year, because a lot of people made a big deal about that. We made a big deal about that on this show. It is something that when you were playing, hey, Manager wants to jump your case, man, and I mean, if it's in front of everybody, so be it. In this day and age, you tend to handle things a little more new age, and the old school guys are getting kind of shoved out. At the end of the day, was that a good thing, a bad thing, or an indifferent thing when all is said and done? What do you think?
I would think more good than bad. That's what I think. And I think there's a lot more to it than probably is out there in terms of, the relationship with, I think, first of all, Tyler's the guy to take it. It's got to start with that. So anytime there's kind of this thing in baseball that's a fight or whatever, I think, it always has to be thought about in the context of the relationship of the people that are involved. And I think Tyler can answer to challenges, and I think the team needed maybe to hear that too. So it wasn't just about Tyler, it was about everybody else. And, I feel like it was one of those one step back to take 2 steps forward. And I don't think it was wrong. I don't think it was an isolated incident, which it always kind of comes back to be. You judge, what happened at that moment, but it's not just that moment. It's other moments and maybe a trend that Ollie was seeing. And I think he wanted to make sure everybody knew that, Ollie's easy along with. He's a young manager, but he also wants everybody to know he's the manager too. And I don't begrudge that a bit. And I think he's relational enough to be able to get by with that in this day and age. I think you're right. You have to be careful about that. But I don't think I heard people talking about he lost the team. That could not be further from the truth. It just can't. I've been in the clubhouse every day. Ollie has got a very open door kind of deal. And I just think in the context of that team, it was good than bad.
You brought up Contreras, and I think everybody felt like, me included, felt like, hey, Molina's walking out the door, perfect guy to bring in for the team, excellent player, gamer, all those kinds of things for a long time. We'll see if all that gets worked out. But the question is, I'd have for you, Molina's here forever, right?
Yes.
Forever. And, him and Wainwright have pretty much run that clubhouse for the better part of 17, 18 years. How much has he been missed?
He's been missed a lot, Tom. I just think, his presence, it was like an extra coach on the field. And I think that was part of the adjustment going on early in the season is I think we have a generation of Cardinal pitchers, maybe more than that because Yachty has been there forever, a generation of pitchers that if he put down a 1, that's what you'd throw. You wouldn't shake Yachty or Molina, which I would always say, don't do that. Don't just do it because Yachty's saying it. If you're not convicted to throw that pitch as a pitcher, you shouldn't be throwing it. I don't care who he is. I don't care if it's, the Johnny Bench or whoever. You call your own game. And of course, Yachty is great at doing all those things. But I think there was an adjustment for the pitchers to even learn themselves. So it was a little bit about Contreras learning the pitchers, but it was also a lot about the pitchers learning themselves about, how do I want to attack this guy? And I'm going to shake off with a purpose. And of course, you got the pitch clock, which kind of amplifies the stress about, shaking off and how many times you can do it and all that. But Yachty's presence clearly missed. But I feel like Wilson is starting to develop a great sense of energy that has become infectious in the clubhouse. And, he's not Yachty, but he's Wilson, and that's all he needs to be.
All right, before we get you out of here, the Cardinals this weekend coming into town. You got into town. Series starts tonight. Montgomery is on the mound. What can you tell us about him and the starters in the next 2 games of this series?
Well, Montgomery is 2-6, but he's better than that. He's been one of our best starters, and even his ERA he's better than that. He just had one bad game, and then he got painted a couple of times by the relievers with some unearned run or some runs that came out after him, inherited runs. He's a strike thrower. He works quickly. He'll work up in the zone. He's got really good sinking fastball. You need to have that in Cincinnati because obviously a hitter's ballpark. I think he'll keep the ball down and do a good job. The other starters, Cardinals are actually now in a 6-man rotation. And the last I heard, Tom, it was unclear kind of what the order was. Wainwright will be one of the games, probably game 2. But the kind of where we go from there, Matthew Liberatore is the new guy that got brought up from AAA. Had a very good start, his one start. He's going to mix in over the next 19 days because there's no off days. So as of now, I'm not sure who's starting game 3, but the pitching has gotten better Still not great, the starting pitching, but it's gotten better. The offense has just been phenomenal. 3 times in the last homestand, the Cardinals scored more than 10 runs, and so they'll be swinging it for sure.
All right, last question I want to ask you, and look, I'm not asking you to get specific about any of these guys. I'm just asking you, big picture here, okay? Because you pitched for a long time in the big leagues. You know, the Reds have 3 or 4 young starters. You're going to see one of them tonight, and they allegedly have a couple of more on the way. I don't get too excited about what guys do in the minor leagues. Do it in the big leagues, and then we'll talk about it.
Right.
But they've had Hunter Green. They've had Nick Lodolo. They've had Graham Ashcraft. You know all about these guys. You've seen them. Yep. Talented young pitchers. But they're playing on a team that is up until recently was a bad defensive team. Maybe they've gotten some of that straightened out now with moving guys around. But it's still a very shaky defensive team. Hunter Green has not won a game. Now, in this day and age, some people say, well, wins don't mean anything anymore. I don't buy that. Nobody likes to see O and dash whatever the number is after their name. I don't care who you are, right? For young pitchers, now really beginning their first full year, if not a year and a half, 2 years in the big leagues, what would be reasonable expectations for guys like that? I mean, besides take health out of it, because good Lord willing, everybody stays healthy. Lodolo's hurt now.
Right.
But what's reasonable? And then all of a sudden, when you keep seeing that 0 next to your name, mentally what happens to guys?
Well, I agree with you, Tom, about the point that, wins don't matter to a lot of people, but they matter to the pitcher. They matter to your agent and the arbitrator, too, when it comes to, getting your salary. So, honestly, it does matter. And at the end of the day, if you're 0-6, that means that's 6 games that your team's lost that you're in and where you don't get to shake hands on the field. And wins do matter. I mean, that's why you play. Not, wins is the most important thing in the world, but that's what your job is to win. So, yes, they matter. I mean, they absolutely matter. And it can be psychologically difficult for a young pitcher. I think the key there is to make sure some veteran, and whether it's David Bell or the pitching coach or coaches or even veteran pitchers, whatever, give the young guys some context of that look, this is you're 0-5, but this isn't it's about keep doing what you're doing. And you're going to have some days where we get better and we win. And so you have to take care with that, I think, because it can be kind of demoralizing, I think, for a young pitcher. I've seen all those guys you just mentioned. I like Lodolo a lot, and Hunter Green throws 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we've seen Ashcraft too. So these guys, clearly they're big league guys, and you just I would say the key is to make sure there's enough psychological support in their direction, because you're not going to feel it, because they're going to look at those numbers and they're just not going to feel it. And the other thing is you got to make sure that that's not their expectation. You don't want somebody to say, hey, you're going to be a great big leaguer because you're going to throw 100 miles an hour and be 0-5, and that's fine. You can't say that either. So it's tricky business, I think, for the management, for the leaders in the clubhouse and the coaches to keep challenging them to say, look, we're gonna get you. It's not all about you right now, but don't settle for this. Don't settle as a young player for losing, because that's not where we're headed. I think that'd be the message that I would send to them.
All right. Ricky, we thank you so much for your time today. Welcome to town. I hope you enjoy the next 3 days. Great weather, that's for sure.
I've already talked to Marty Brenneman and Tom Brenneman today, so I'm already having a good day.
Well, all right. If you talk to him, I don't know how good your day's off to a good start. I can promise you that. All right, Ricky, thanks for your time, man. Great to see you.
All right. Great to see you, Tom. Thanks.
All righty. Ricky Horton, kind enough to join us. He'll be in the broadcast booth tonight for the St. Louis Cardinals. You guys going down to any of those games this week?
Big East Tournament baseball this week. So I will be at Prasco Park in Mason all week long.
And that's where I will be.
Let's go, Casey.
At some point.
Let's go.
So he talked you into, if I remember, he talked you into coming last week.
Yes.
Because you don't live too far from there. Beautiful facility, by the way, out there, Prasco. Good folks.
Yes, it is. Very, very beautiful. If you've never been down there, you guys should. I haven't been down there in years. It's probably been like 6 years.
Tomas coming?
I gotta talk to Tomas about it.
Okay.
I'm sure I can convince him to come on down.
Come Wednesday night, 6:30. The weather's gonna be great all week. Weather's gonna be fancy, like 80 degrees.
Yes, it
is.
is.
Sunny all week.
More than likely, I'm probably gonna be there
Thursday.
Thursday or Friday. Friday, is that one?
Yeah, there's games every night. It's 6:30 Wednesday, 6:30 Thursday. Well, there's afternoon games too, but night games 6:30 Wednesday, Thursday, and then at 5 o'clock Friday.
Yeah, so I'll probably be down there later this weekend or this week.
Do it. Free food, free admission, free Chick-fil-A, Skyline, Montgomery Inn. Ooh. Each day is a different. I don't know which days they're doing.
What do you call that combo thing?
Oh, the Sky Rosa.
The Sky Rosa.
You could do that. La Rosa's too. Yeah, that's one of the days.
Oh yeah, you best believe I'm going to get me a Sky Rosa.
Did you have one Friday night?
No, I did not.
I didn't either. I forgot. I would have done it. I forgot
about
it.
So what time did you get down there for those, whatever they're called, what is it, a $5 beer you guys were talking about last week, an hour before first pitch or whatever it was?
Well, whenever gates open and then it's...
Gates open, right.
Yeah,
right.
Whenever gates open and then it's until the very first pitch, they're $5 beers. And
so were you there for that?
Yes. We got through the line, which... Sir Boy actually got us through really quickly. There's a little secret spot that people kind of miss when you're getting into the stadium, since it was, the gates were packed with people trying to get through them.
To get that $5 beer.
Yeah, there's a gate that people don't realize is not actually associated with something else. That's actually an entrance into the stadium, and we got in pretty quickly, and the lines were really, really short for the beer garden.
Yep.
And so we got our beer, and then I actually later on got the Montgomery Inn barbecue right next to the Bud Deck. I think it's Montgomery.
Yeah,
that barbecue. So I had a barbecue pulled pork sandwich.
Nice.
And then I also got from the fry box, me and Thomas split a buffalo chicken fry box. So
I've been seeing a lot of Montgomery Inn slander on social media.
Really?
I love the pulled pork sandwich from Montgomery Inn. I'm not a ribs guy, so I'm not going to sit here and judge whether the Montgomery Inn ribs are good or not. But man, I it gets tired to me. Seeing this on you go down there, get a good pulled pork sandwich, some Saratoga chips, and a beer. You don't have to spend a crazy amount of money. You don't have to spend $50 on the rack of ribs and everything. Sit down there at the boathouse by the water. It's a great night. I don't understand it.
I love their food, and I like ribs, and I like chicken. So
I've never had the chicken there.
That's what I pretty much always get. Barbecue chicken. It's great. And they've been great for the town for a long, long time.
I've never been to the original.
Gregory family.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I've never been to the original. I've been many.
That's old school, man. Dark. They got a great bar up there. I mean, if you live in that area, great place to go sit down, watch a game. Eat right there at the bar, but it's old school.
Yeah, I've never been. I've been many, many times to the Boathouse, but I've never been to the original.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've actually been to any actual Montgomery Inn places except for those stands that you can go to at different places, and including the Reds.
Take Alex down to the Boathouse sometime.
I'm gonna have to.
He's not Are you kidding me? He's not reaching in his pocket to do that.
It's not that expensive.
I didn't say it was that expensive.
Well, Alex will definitely get ribs.
Why is there all this talk about the Cowboy in here?
I don't know.
Maybe because he does their commercials?
Maybe. What are people getting on me? What's going on?
No.
I don't know. Okay.
Why are they getting on you?
I don't know. I think we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
Let me. Yeah. No, nothing from Chad. Yeah. Where was your go-to? Let me ask you this, Tom, because I don't think we've ever gotten this.
Yeah.
Speaking of food, when let's say Ricky Horton's in town.
Yep.
And we've talked about the Blind Lemon, obviously great spot, one of the best bars here in Cincinnati.
Yep.
But we know Jeff Ruby's, we know Montgomery Inn. Would it be one of those two, or would it be somewhere else? You have an off night and you have your guys in town, the other broadcasters, and there's say 4 of you.
Well, we used to take every year when I would get an NFL game and our Fox crew would come in, right? I'd always have a big thing for them at the precinct. I'd get that upstairs room.
Yep.
Right? And have everybody come down there because it kind of shows off what our city, right, in part. is known for, and the Ruby steak and all that kind of thing, right? So, yeah, I mean, most of the time when guys come into town, like that, you're not going to hang out with them on an off day because it's rare for you to have an off day and it's rare for them to have an off day, right? Sure. So most of the time it turns into going to have a beer.
Or maybe maybe you had a day game and, it's a night game the next day. Get a dinner to go to with your guys here in Cincinnati. The precinct?
Well, right now I'd go to the new Rubies because it's new.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Have you been?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there aren't 5 places in the country like that joint. I mean, it is the biggest of big league. Now, it's a big league ticket. Huge ticket, right? I mean, the money is you better bring your wallet. But then again, maybe you want to go, maybe they're like, nah, I don't want to go to some fancy place and get dressed up or whatever it might be and just want to go to wherever. Where would you take them?
Let's see. On my budget, let's see. The Hamilton Taco Bell.
T-Bell.
T-Bell.
Or Nito Chocinco over at McDonald's.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know. Montgomery Inn wouldn't be. If you go to the Boathouse, you're sitting by the window. That's not a bad option. I mean, the precinct's just the best, but there's no way I could afford that right now.
What about the Eagle?
Yeah, Everett makes a great point. The Eagle's great if you can get in. We were trying to go there the other night and couldn't get in. You know what's a low-key nice spot? I don't mean low-key as in like it's a low-key place like kind of under the radar, those that you don't really think about.
What's that?
Moorline.
Where?
Moorline. Right across.
No doubt.
Right across
Easy.
from the Red Stadium.
Yep.
Because you're right there in the city.
Yep.
I just went there for dinner with some friends the other night. You're right there in the city, and you can go over to the banks and have a beer afterwards if you want to, or you can have one of their beers, which are outstanding. It's a great spot. If you're sitting outside on a summer night, like the other night, they had a concert series going in that little park next to it. So they had a live band playing, and it's a little cooler inside too because they got the fans, a little air conditioning. I mean, it's a great spot. So if you're not looking for like the precinct or one of those,
or Soto or something, or
like a Boca or one of those, but
right.
yeah. But that's a whole different kind of. That's a whole different.
We're getting
idea.
all kinds of people that are jumping in. Sundry and Vice. That's a cocktail joint. But Agave and Rye, you've been over there?
I've never been to Agave and Rye.
Okay.
No, I've gotten it recommended a million times, but I've never actually been over there.
Okay. Tav's? Is that a place?
I've been to Taft's.
I've never
Taft's
been
is
there.
good. Taft's is good.
Okay, I never heard of it. La Mexicana in Newport. You been over there?
Never. I mean, yes, I've eaten in Newport a million times, but never to that.
White Castle.
The Carthage White Castle. That is a staple. That is a staple of Paul because the Carthage White Castle is in between my house and Xavier's campus. So on the way home from Xavier games at like 11:30 when the press conference gets done and I'm finally meandering out of the Cintas Center, that's about the only thing open. It's in between my house and Cintas. So I am a frequent visitor of the Carthage White Castle.
You've been to the Turf Club right there on Eastern Avenue?
I have not because they were one of those restaurants where you could throw peanuts around and my dweeby allergy holds me back. Tom.
I got you. Okay. They changed ownership. I don't know what it's like since then. Of course, Sir Boy Wonder's always talking about the Oak.
The Oak is elite.
They serve food?
Oh, their wings are awesome.
At the Oak?
Yeah, oh yeah.
In Oakley?
Yeah.
What's the name of that dump? Oak what? Oak Tavern? Oakley Tavern? What's it called?
No. Well, there's the Oak, and then right down the street from it, there's the Oakley Pub and Grill. That's two different things.
So there's a place called just the Oak.
The Oak, and it's in Oakley. It's right across from St. Cecilia's Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
it's fantastic.
Unlike you guys, big leaguers here, I'll just take my free Texas Roadhouse coupon I got from the game that magically fell from the sky.
You gotta, man.
Yeah.
And by the way, I wasn't saying it's that was just having fun. I'm not calling the place a dump. I said it, but that's not what you knew that already, Sir Boy. Relax. Relax.
Sir Boy getting offended.
There were some interesting decisions made down there just to kind of tie a ribbon around this Red stuff. Hopefully we have Chad Brendel coming up shortly to talk a little bit about UC recruiting. But, there were a lot of interesting decisions made over the weekend, and we talked about this last night. I think it's fair game, and I said it's fair game, to have fans question the manager of a baseball team about his day in and day out starting lineup. And some people get all mad when you say that. There's no doubt the manager knows some of the things going on that we as fans don't know. Maybe a guy's nicked up. Maybe a guy's got something going on at home. Maybe the computer got him, as the phrase goes, in baseball today, meaning his matchup numbers, for whatever reason, don't match up with a particular guy on the mound. But I got to tell you, Sunday for me, I sat there and said to myself, hold on a minute now. How in the world do you not have regular players playing on Sunday when you're on the verge of getting your tail swept for the weekend? Now, a lot of people say, well, the Yankees didn't start all this. No, they didn't. They played some backup guys. Judge didn't play on Sunday. But they had already won the first 2 games of the series. So they're not conceding the series, although their best starter, potentially once healthy, was a guy going on Sunday. But the best Red starter, potentially, was going on Sunday. No Will Myers, no Tyler Stevenson. You had a chance to hit Tyler Stevenson late in the game with a chance to tie the game in your last teams at bat. And no, they don't do it. Stevenson and Myers go 1 for 14 on Friday and Saturday night. Myers doesn't know what to say. And I admire the guy for not ducking the media. He's just like, I don't know what to tell you. It has been a disaster. And he was the only big free agent they had to speak of at all during the offseason. Will he get it together? I don't know. We continue to talk about Stevenson. This is troubling because this guy looks lost. Struck out 3 times on Saturday. And things are not getting better.
No, he's going through a slump, that's for sure. I worry about him too, Tom. He was definitely within the plans for them in the future, right? I mean, I think everyone would agree with that. I'm just pulling it up right now, but just in the month of May. Oh, I'm sorry.
You were looking up month of May.
The month of May, I mean, he's been horrible. I mean, it like I was saying before we started this series, he was at like a .28 batting average, I believe. I believe that's what it was, something close to that. And now, just within the month of May, I mean, it's not good. It's not good at all. May, he is .193. That's horrible. Horrible. I don't even know how just within the last 7 days, .133. I mean, he's been really bad. Horrific.
His overall batting average has gone down 20 points this month. Started the month at 265. He's down to 245. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has a total of 5 runs batted in the entire month. The entire month. We're sitting here on the 22nd of June, May. He has 2 home runs this entire month.
Right. 5 RBIs.
He has 1, 2, 3, 4. Or no, hold on a second. He has 1, He has one double.
One double.
One double and 2 home runs this month with 5 runs batted in. Basically playing every day. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I know, you give it up to the kid. He's been looking for help. I guess he reached out to Barry Larkin, and God bless him. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, man. And look, PB's Ghost, I love your thoughts and I love your opinions. But look, I don't want to hear about who's hitting in front of him and behind him. Okay? I don't want to hear about it. Because baseball is littered with really good hitters that played on terrible teams and nobody hit in front of them and nobody hit behind them. And by and large, they've had a couple of guys hitting in front of him. And I'm not talking about necessarily one spot in front of him, but I'm talking about in front of him before his spot in the lineup comes up. They've had a couple of guys that have had pretty good years at the top of that lineup, including India.
Yeah.
So, look.
How do you feel about McLean?
Well, McLean's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. I'm not going to get worked up that, he hadn't hit a home run. I'm not going to get wrapped up in any of that. I mean, these guys, he is trying to get his legs underneath him at the big league level. Every pitcher, by and large, he is facing, whether it be a starter or whether it be a reliever, he is seeing the guy for the very first time. So I'm not getting wrapped up in all that. Just run him out there, let him play, and let's see what happens.
We do have Chad Brendel in about 2 minutes.
Oh, good. All right, looking forward to that.
Here.
So I'm not going to worry about him. Way too early for that. Run him out there, see what happens. If you want no further difference, and this is why, again, I do not buy the hype of minor league players. I don't do it. And do yourself a favor and don't do it, because you'll make yourself crazy. And if there is Exhibit A in a courtroom of the difference between AAA and the big leagues, look at Will Benson. I read yesterday where his last 3 weeks at AAA, he's hitting .450. This year at the big leagues, and he started the season as an everyday player, he has 2 hits. And he's hitting .450 for 3 weeks at AAA? Now, the truth probably lies somewhere in between the two, right? And I'm not going to throw in the towel on Benson yet. He's got all the physical attributes of being a guy that you get excited about. Former number 1 pick. But Cleveland saw him. Cleveland is not in the habits of giving away number 1 picks. The Reds took a flyer on the guy. Listen, don't buy the minor league hype. Let them get here and see what they do. Root for them while they're here. Don't buy the hype. All right, kind enough to join us on short notice today. You hear him all the time, he is the man when it comes to everything going on at the University of Cincinnati. He's great on all the sports. I love listening to him as a talk show host here in town. Chad Brendel. And Chad, before we go any further, I know I echo with so many, and our thoughts and prayers have been with you and the passing of your wife, Kelly, and our thoughts and prayers are very much with you. How you guys doing?
We're hanging in there. It's not easy, but luckily I've got a 12-year-old little girl that keeps me occupied every day, and now she comes to me for all the money she needs to spend. So,
no, but just get ready. You have no idea.
Yeah.
You think 12 are expensive? I got a 20-year-old. All right, hey, there's a lot going on here at UC right now. I want to start with football because, everybody knows the deal. Fickle decides to go to Wisconsin There was a lot of talk about who they would hire, who they wouldn't hire. You follow this stuff like nobody's business. What has been your interpretation, feeling, whatever the word might be, about the job done so far without having played a game from Coach Satterfield?
So far, I think they've done really, really well. I mean, they've had success in the transfer portal. They kept a pretty good chunk of their recruiting class together, including the guy that is the future of the program, hopefully at quarterback, in Brady Drogosh, that was a really, really highly touted kid out of Michigan that, decided to stick with them. And he kind of fits that zone read, outside zone running system that Scott Satterfield likes with his quarterbacks. So I think they did a good job there. Right now, they're sitting with a top 20 class in the country for 2024. They've done a good job identifying talent, get it to campus, get them committed. So I think they're happy with how things have gone in the recruiting side of things. They had a pretty good spring. I think the defense looks like they're going to be pretty strong. And, when you look at across the board, I think they've hit the ground running pretty well. The question is, how are they going to assimilate themselves into season one in the Big 12? And when you're setting expectations, what are realistic expectations for this program as they go into this first season in a much better conference, a conference where you can lose on any given week, and that wasn't the case in the American. There were just too many times where, they take the field and they're so far superior in talent that even if they have a bad day or they're not playing at the top of their game, they're still able to win. And that's not going to be the case in the Big 12. So I think, Tom, when you look at their 9-game Big 12 schedule, I think 6 of those games are considered coin flips, where it's within 52 to 48,
right,
53 to 47. So when you're looking at just from the jump, 6 of your games are going to be coin flips. There's such a wide variance in what the schedule can be. I know a lot of fans kind of freaked out when they saw the over-under win total set by Vegas at 4.5. But I'm not comfortable really betting either way on that because there's so much unknown and this roster is so new. I just did a video with 24/7 Sports National talking about what's considered a good season. I think if they get to 6 or 7 wins, I think you have to consider that a successful year one for Scott Satterfield.
It's interesting that you're playing one off the other here where, okay, you're going to take a hit losing Luke Fickell. He was going in there recruiting guys, selling UC, all the great things about UC, all the stuff happening, the indoor facility, all this kind of thing going on. Now he goes, so you take a hit. New coach comes in, but now you're selling Big 12. Is there a significant difference in the people you talk to about the kind of kid that you're going to get into their home because now you are in the Big 12?
I talked about this a lot on the basketball side of recruiting, but I think it fits in football as well. I thought the biggest mistake that was made by the American Athletic Conference was selling off the Big East name because it means something. This is the example I use. Kids in the Northeast grew up dreaming of playing in the Big East. Kids in the South dream of playing in the SEC. Kids from Texas dream of playing in the Big 12. Who in their right mind grew up dreaming of playing in the American Athletic Conference? Nobody. Not a single person. There's not a single kid out there that at 12 years old was like, man, if I can just get to Tulane or Tulsa or Temple or somewhere like that, I've made it. I've made it. So in recruiting, that makes a big difference. You're able to now tell a kid from Texas, we're going to play 2 games a year in your home state. You can go into Florida and say you're going to be playing on ESPN and Fox every weekend. And you're going to have an opportunity to be seen at a program that has already shown it can put great players in the NFL and have them go really high in the NFL draft. So it just adds to that sales pitch. Because in the American, all you were doing was fighting off Kentucky saying, you don't want to go play in that conference. You don't want to go play Tulane at 11:30 on a Saturday morning on ESPN Plus. And they were right. And now you actually have some fight back against that, hey, we're in a big boy conference and we're playing those big time games, those big time opponents every week. And in recruiting, that makes a huge, huge difference just in getting in the door. Like when you talk to coaches, when they would talk about recruiting to the American, the hardest part would be a lot of kids wouldn't even take your call.
Right.
If they're 4-star or 5-star type kids, they won't even take the phone call. They're just no thanks. Even with going to the college football playoff, even with Sauce Gardner and Travis and Jason Kelsey, on your resume as look what we can do, they're just no, I'm not interested, and that's going to come to an end now. So that's a big, big plus for the program.
Okay, you're starting to see some of that now all of a sudden on the basketball side of things. I mean, if the football thing is going to be challenging, the basketball thing is an enormous task because without a doubt across the board, Big 12 basketball is it, man. Best conference by far in the country. So what were your thoughts about signing the 7-footer from Utah Valley and what Wes Miller has going on? Because, Chad, you know as well as I do, there are a lot of people out there, and I'm not one of them. There are a lot of people out there that are on Wes Miller's ass already around here. I think they made a nice hire with a guy, but you know how people are, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Cincinnati basketball is a proud story. Like that's when you're talking about tradition, Cincinnati basketball has the tradition. And they have a fan base that has expectations. And if you don't meet those expectations, then the fan base is going to get grumpy. And that's understandable. That's why I'm able to have a job, is because people are passionate about it. I think, again, recruiting to the American was extremely difficult, even more difficult in basketball than it was in football. And, you just look at what he's been able to do this offseason. Not just, Aziz Bandago, who was the 7-footer from Utah Valley. If you watch Cincinnati play Utah Valley in the NIT, he dominated them.
Yeah.
I mean, he owned Cincinnati. And that's funny because that could be part of the reason why he's at Cincinnati now is a coach gets a firsthand look, and then that guy goes in the portal, and it's like, oh, buddy, we got to go get him. And they made that happen. But he also, you had C.J. Frederick, who has had unfortunate injury issues at Kentucky. But I think the positive of that is it's not like he's got a bad knee that keeps coming up. I mean,
right.
Like this year, his issue at Kentucky, he went in for a layup, got fouled, and broke his rib hitting the camera that was underneath the basket. Like, that's pretty fluky.
Yeah.
If you get the C.J. Frederick that was at Iowa, that was one of the top 3-point shooters in the country at 47%, the dog's excited about it. I mean,
absolutely. Should be. My dogs get excited about it.
And then you get Seamus Lukosius. Hey, calm down. You get Seamus Lukosius from Butler, who was, ask Xavier fans about him. He was really good in the 2 games that Butler played Xavier. Give me 1 second. Hey, calm down.
I've been there.
So, you get, and then you also get Jameel Reynolds, who is, kind of a back to the basket, low post presence that they haven't had on this roster really since Trey Scott and Gary Clark. So you added, and this was my big thing coming into this offseason, Tom. You couldn't just go into the transfer portal and get guys. You had to go get guys that came in at the top of your roster. You lost David DeJulius. You lost Landers Nolly. You couldn't get filler. You had to get starters or starter quality players. And now when you look inside, Victor Locken, who's maybe the best returning player on this team, and Reynolds and Bandago, now you've got a Big 12 front court. And you're surrounding that with Lukosius and C.J. Frederick on the wing, guys that really can shoot. I think the biggest and most obvious question for this team, Tom, point guard. With Mike Adams-Woods leaving, you have 2 guys that the staff is insanely high on. And Davion Thomas, he goes by Day-Day, and Jizzle James, who is the son of Edgerrin James. Those 2 guys, they believe, are high-level, elite college point guards. But neither of them have dribbled a basketball in a Division I game, much less in a Big 12 game.
Right.
And with Mike Adams-Woods leaving, now you don't have a safety net. And maybe that gets answered this summer. Maybe they look to bring somebody else in the portal to give them that steady hand at point guard that they're going to need. But the reality of the situation is, if they were right, and those two guys are high-level college point guards, this should be a really good team. If they were wrong, the Big 12, here's a line from Mick Cronin when they used to play in the Big East. Mick always used to say in press conferences, you're 1 week away from a 3-game losing streak. Every week. Every week. Because every week you are looking at your schedule and it looks something like UConn, Pitt, Syracuse. And you have to go deal with that. And really, when you looked at the old Big East, there was still DePaul and St. John's and South Florida that were at the bottom of that conference kind of pulling it down. Who pulls the Big 12 down?
I hear you.
They're all top 50. West Virginia last year was 58. And I think they were 7-11 in conference play.
That's
and
right.
Still made the NCAA tournament comfortably. So, that's expectations. People are in for a shock to the system going into a league where you can lose 11 conference games and still comfortably make the big dance because of how strong that league is. The coaching is great. The talent acquisition is great. They had, I think, 7 top 25 transfers are going to the Big 12. All the other major conferences combined also had 7. Like, it's just power in every way.
There's no doubt.
It's an impressive league to watch. Like, when they get into the Big 12, you start watching more Big 12 games to get your mind ready for it. And there were times last year, it's like, am I watching a different sport?
Yeah.
This isn't the sport I'm watching in the American Conference.
You're right.
This is a whole different thing. And it's fun to watch, but, well, buddy, it gets very real coming December.
Chad, we thank you for your time, man. Love to have you back because you're so
Anytime,
dialed in the Bearcat Journal, and love to have you back again.
I appreciate it, and great talking to you, Tom, and hope you guys have a great show. We'll see you soon.
All right, man. Chad, thanks so much. Chad Brendel, Bearcat Journal, he's all over the place. I really like him on radio talk show, man. I mean, he surprises me. I had never seen him, and I love hearing him talk about the music they run in and out. I mean, I could learn a lesson from Chad. I mean, I'm like an old dude. He's not an old dude, but, maybe I should start listening to some of the music my kids listen to. I mean, he's talking about going to concerts. I never heard of half these guys, but they sound good when they're running that music. I like it. Maybe I ought to try to get a little younger. What do you think?
Get hip, Tom.
A little more, what's the word?
Get hip.
Now, hip's an old school word.
Well, I was trying to bridge the gap.
But what's an equivalent in the
didn't we do a teaching Tom
verbiage?
On this?
No, I know, but what would be like? What's the equivalent of hip today? What's a young person's word? Drip is more to do with the way you look, right?
Yeah.
The clothes you wear.
Yeah.
Drip. But hip is a little bit of everything. It's a combo of maybe what you wear, the way you act, the way you think, the way you kind of carry yourself. There are people who are just hip, and then there are other people who just aren't hip.
I think it still applies.
Drip?
No, hip. I think it still applies.
Well, I know it still applies. I was just asking, though, is there an equivalent to that?
Use it. Roll with it.
Okay, hip it is.
Lean into it, Tom. We do have a cherry on top before we get to box lunch.
All right, let's do it. Cherry on top, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We have box lunch coming up.
We think this is the video you were talking about, and if not, it still conveys everything the same way. This is a scene, sights and sounds.
Let's see this.
From FC Cincinnati. That's all 90 minutes. Like that. All 90 minutes.
Incredible. So that's their version, though, of the Dolphins, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's the big.
I mean, the people along the sideline are not doing that. There's some of it, but not like that. You go there to sit there for that the whole game, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Bailey is something else entirely. But I mean, the experience of being there, I mean, you feel that energy throughout the entire game.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Doesn't look like Cincinnati, as Ronnie Smith says, but it is. I mean, happening. All right. Box lunch. Reed Mouse.
Tom, how's it going?
What's going on with your Cubbies?
Listen.
That's a sinking ship, man, fast.
It is crazy because if you look at how the players are playing, you look along their lineup, only 2 hitters are doing well. Almost everyone else is hitting fantastic. They're playing great. I think they're top 5 in positional WAR.
Okay.
You look at their starting pitching. Pitching great. Justin Steele is a bona fide Cy Young contender. Marcus Stroman's been great. Drew Smyly's been great. But they just lose. They just keep losing. And I don't know what is the reason, because they are top 10 in ERA, top 10 in pitching WAR. They are top 5 in lineup WAR. They are top 5, I believe, in OPS. But they just keep losing. So it doesn't make any sense. You figure it's going to turn around at some point, but I don't know. Who cares?
You're a little down about it.
A little down about it is an understatement. Their losing streak started around the same time that I hung a W flag outside my humble abode.
Wow.
So
Ooh,
I don't believe
now, see, that flag's tired.
You don't like the W flag, Tom?
I think it's really cool at the ballpark because, there are a lot of people, and you know this, but there are a lot of people, believe it or not, even in this day and age, that might have a really busy day and have a lot going on. Now, this isn't the majority anymore, but for a long time it was the case before all the cell phones and internet and all that kind of thing and access to scores and talk radio. But, there's still people that, they got stuff going on during their day. And they can't fool around on their phone, and they can't fool around checking scores or whatever it might. They're running their kids here. They got an appointment there, a work thing here, and got to go to pick up a dry cleaning and whatever. And they can drive by that ballpark and see the sign. See the flag. And they know whether the Cubs won or lost.
That's how they know.
It's really cool.
I miss when Great American Ballpark used to do they still have it where they do the standings out in right field, but it's on a video board now.
Right.
I miss it kind of where it was old school, and they actually had flags and their logos and that's how you knew who was in first place in the standings when you went to the ballpark.
I agree.
How long has it been since they took out the old out-of-town scoreboard at Great American Ballpark?
It's been a while. Because they keep pouring in. The one thing you do have to say about the Reds, and look, you can say good, bad, and different. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But the one thing they have done very, very well is they've poured a lot of money into the fan experience of that ballpark.
No doubt.
They've done a great job.
It's a fantastic ballpark.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And whether it's the lighting or the band and all what stuff you're talking about, they've done a nice job on that. Now they just got to get the product right on the field. Is that where you're starting? 100,000 in attendance? I'm assuming that's the Reds over the weekend?
We talked about it on Box Lunch last week. We kind of try to guess at how many would be in attendance, and we guessed right around, what did we say, 70,000? We said over the course of 3 games, 70,000 fans would show up. And
they were going to do better than that.
They did that in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not a good number to start with.
Well, we know that.
Okay, but here's the question. Let's take right now, have a little quick deal.
Okay.
You had over 100,000 for the weekend. One sellout, if I'm not mistaken.
Saturday. Saturday was 41,000.
Attendance tonight. Paul?
12,000. Announced.
Casey?
I'll go 15.
Cardinals in town, I would say, I think 12's a little low. I would say 15, 16 is somewhere around.
It is a nice night.
It is a beautiful night out.
It's a really nice night out. I'm gonna go on the lower end. These guys went a little higher. I'm gonna go a little lower.
I'm going lower than you. I'm saying 10.
That bad, huh?
Hey, if you took away opening day and the games this weekend, Paul and our guess would be a hell of a lot closer to being right than you two guys.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You think that many people care much about the St. Louis Cardinals? All the guys from the Reds that you rooted for against them and all the villains, Molina, all these guys, right? I guarantee you 90% of the Reds fans couldn't tell you the name of the manager of the Cardinals. You knew when Tony La Russa.
That's probably fair.
You knew when Tony La Russa managed the Cardinals.
Paul, who's the manager of the Cardinals?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Oliver Marmol. But I know what you're saying.
That's right.
And the only reason I knew it was because he pulled the guy out of the game.
Yeah.
Right? But you knew when Tony La Russa was there.
No doubt.
You even knew to a lesser extent when Mike Matheny was
Mike
here.
Matheny?
Oh, good or bad, you knew Matheny.
So, I just don't think there's – we'll see. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you guys are closer to being right. Casey, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Paul, thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Reed, good luck on the show.
Thank you, Tom.
Here we go. Box lunch. Here we go.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice
The worst
microphones.
trade of all time happened back in 1803. Go ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte traded the Louisiana Purchase for $3 million. Napoleon, what happened? Half the country for $3 million. You can't even get Tucker Barnhart for $3 million.
Then I came to realize these guys are funny.
And Justin Fields have identical stats the last 5 weeks about throwing the football. This guy, okay,
And
folks,
are
is a
some of the
fidget
best
spinner.
gamblers I've come to know.
If you're betting on USC and or TCU, let it be known you are a square.
TCU is going to hammer this team tomorrow night.
I hate to hear that.
Tomorrow
when we come back
afternoon.
in here on Monday, you're going to be happy as a lark because USC lost, but you're going to be wrong about TCU.
Get ready for the most useless hour of your day. It's time for Boxed Lunch, presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Now, Casey, run that track.
Appreciate it. Like it. 8.1. I give that. I like this one. 8.1. Good opening.
I feel like you guys like rock. You guys like the
We
rock.
do. Well, the hip hop sounds cheesy. Whenever you get that royalty-free hip hop, it sounds cheesy.
Get more rock into our show. I'll keep it in mind.
Speaking of hip hop and rock, I just found this out yesterday, and it blew my mind. So, you know the song "Remember the Name." 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power and will. That song.
Yeah.
Fort Minor, who sings that song, was started by the lead singer of Linkin Park. So, like, the metal band Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Their lead singer started Fort Minor. So, like, it's not, like, crazy to think that, like, Remember the Name is made by Linkin Park, which is, like, just blew my mind. Like, I don't know how I didn't know that. Mike Shinoda.
Interesting.
They always sounded similar. I didn't know that.
What did Fort Minor do besides that?
They had one hip-hop album, and it was that. And then he came out with that song. And you know what? There are few hip-hop songs that are as transcending as Remember the Name. Because we will hear that song for 50 years just because it is so darn cheesy and corny. And if you ever been in an athletic weight room, that song will play at some point in your workout.
Yeah.
That song will. That and probably Lose Yourself by Eminem will play without a doubt at some point. So, quick show today. We got a couple debate topics that I heard just, traversing around Cincinnati media recently, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But the first thing was the 100K in attendance this past weekend at Great American Ballpark, which we were way off. And I got to give props. I'll admit to where we're wrong. I said about 65,000, 70,000 people. Kirby was telling us that every game was going to be a darn near sellout. I think the first game was close to a sellout. Game 2 was a sellout. You guys went to game 1.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. The drone show after was awesome. The drone and the fireworks show.
Oh, yeah, you stayed for the fireworks show.
Yeah, that was great. I had never been to a drone show before. I'd never seen anything like it. That was fantastic.
Tom and I tried to beat the traffic. So we left early knowing that a lot of people were going to stay for the drone show. I didn't know that it was going to be a drone show. I think I would have stayed knowing that, because we all know how I feel about fireworks. Fireworks and a drone show?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was great. It was great. I was at the Xavier game with Mike, and we got done with the game, and he said somebody had texted him during the game and had an extra ticket. And then we got down there, and I figured the ticket was going to be in the 500s, just go have a beer or whatever. They were like, oh, well, just keep on walking down. Keep on. It was the first row.
First row.
Which was weird because it was the first row behind that was the best seat I've ever had at a baseball game that I've had a ticket to.
Right.
We've moved down plenty of times, but
Sure,
that was the best ticketed seat I've ever had at a Major League game. What The first row is row F. So like if you're sitting in row A, you're in the game. You're batting third. So we were looking at our ticket and we just kept moving down. I'm like, where's row F? And the row F was in the first row. So A, B, C, D, and E are
they just skipped.
Those are the dugout seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why they do that.
I don't
Because
know why
you feel like if you're buying tickets online,
Yeah.
right? And if you saw that it was row A, you'd be more likely to spend more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're losing money by calling it row F.
You would think.
By the way, people are roasting me for not knowing that Mike Shinoda and Fort Minor was from Lincoln. Literally had when it comes to trivia, when it comes to just knowing arbitrary knowledge, I feel like I'm fairly decent at that. No idea for that. And also Everett Henry said that intro song sounded a lot like Royal Blood. It did sound a lot like Royal Blood. So, point. But you guys are right about it. Anthony Rizzo hit a couple home runs. Aaron Judge is a mountain of a man. Paul, I saw the picture that you put.
God.
Mountain of a man.
Yep.
I'd never seen him in person. And being that close and seeing how big he was so much bigger than Sam Hubbard. Sam Hubbard was there to deliver the game ball, and they weren't standing next to each other, but they were close enough because the game was starting, and Hubbard was being escorted off the field, and Judge was coming out into the on-deck circle. And
yeah, and that's crazy to think about.
I mean, Sam Hubbard's a big dude.
Yeah. 6'5".
He's 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
275 pounds probably.
Hubbard is a big dude, and Judge made him look, I don't want to say small, not like the Altuve thing, but he was much bigger than Sam Hubbard was.
Did you ever remember, it's probably 2 years ago, it made its way on Twitter. It's such an arbitrary thing, but there was this pitcher from Hawaii. He played college baseball at Hawaii, was telling this long Twitter story about how Aaron Judge came out to play at the University of Hawaii in college, and this guy took the University of Hawaii player, or the traveling team. Where did Judge go to college? One of those California smaller schools. And he took them all out to the bar, and at the end of the night, one of the players on the team that they were taking out forgot his card. And it was Aaron Judge. And this dude ended up paying like $100 bar tab for Aaron Judge when he was in college. And it was like right after Aaron Judge signed his contract, and was like, hey, man, can I get repaid for taking you out for about 7 years ago in college? Which is funny. That is funny. All right, so the next topic is Redbird hate. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is Cincinnati Reds fans hate the St. Louis Cardinals. As a Cubs fan, I hate the St. Louis Cardinals. Where do the Cardinals rank in Cincinnati sports teams that rivals that we loathe? I would say the Pittsburgh Steelers are a guaranteed number one, right?
Yeah.
Are the Cardinals 2? Are the Browns ahead of them? Are the Ravens ahead of them? Are the Cubs ahead of them?
Are we just doing pro sports?
And then, college teams. I don't think you can do St. X versus UC because those are both two Cincinnati teams.
I was going to say just whichever team you hate of Xavier or Cincinnati. I was going to say one of those. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I know Xavier's rivalries are kind of weird. We talked about this before, Paul, but like a Butler probably wouldn't be up there, right? No. I don't even know who UC's biggest rival is outside of Xavier. I know they had a really strong rivalry with Louisville.
It'd be Dayton, right?
Right, it might be Dayton now. I know they had a really strong rivalry with Louisville. I know in football it was Pittsburgh for a while. The Columbus Crew, are they up there?
Oh, yeah.
Are we saying Louisville because not only they used to have a rivalry with the University of Cincinnati, but there's a lot of UK basketball fans in this town, and that they would hate Louisville? Where do the Cardinals rank in Cincinnati sports teams' rivals? Like, where do they rank in teams that we hate here in this town?
It's funny you say that because I think Louisville, there's a reason that every segment of the population in Cincinnati would hate Louisville, but I still don't know if they would crack the top 5 because Xavier fans would say that Chris Mack left for Louisville. UC fans would hate them still from the Big East. UK fans would hate them because of the in-state rivalry. So you kind of check the box from all three teams. Xavier far and away being the least of those, but still just a little bit of a tinge there. But still, like I don't think Louisville cracks the top 5. I would say probably the Cardinals. I don't in no order. I would say the Cardinals, the Steelers, the Ravens, whichever one of UC or Xavier that you don't like.
Right. I'm drawing them off because they're Cincinnati teams.
Okay. All right. And then so we'll scrap that. That's fine.
Cubs.
2 more. So it's just the NL Central.
The Cubs and
Browns.
the Browns. You didn't say the Browns. You said the Ravens. I would say that Cincinnati fans hate the Browns over the Ravens. because I would say that there's not only are they a division rival, and I know the Browns have always been bad, so it hasn't really been a
that's the thing that was kind of holding
thing.
me back a little bit.
But there's also a lot of Browns fans in Cincinnati, which is a cause for contention. Same with Steelers. That's part of the reason that we hate the Steelers. Not only have they been good for forever, but they've also been in this town. A lot of Steelers fans have.
I think we're asking the wrong question here. It's what city do we hate the most? Because people hate Pittsburgh in general. They hate the Steelers. They hate the Pirates. People hate Cleveland. They hate the Guardians. They hate the Browns. Those are the most hated cities.
Pittsburgh is for sure. And people keep throwing in the Dodgers. The Reds used to have a really good rivalry with the Dodgers back before there was 3 divisions in the NL. They expanded to 3 divisions in the MLB, my bad, in the early 90s. The Reds used to be in the West, and it was always the Reds and the Dodgers fighting it out to see who would win the West back in the 70s, Big Red Machine, everything like that. But nowadays, come on, they're not rivals with the Dodgers anymore. No, regardless of how heated that rivalry was back in 1970s, and that rivalry's gone anymore. I would say Steelers are number 1. I would say the Browns are the second biggest rival to this town. Then the Cardinals, then the Cubs, and then the Ravens. Am I off on the Browns being a bigger rival than the Ravens?
I mean, I think the Ravens are. I think it used to be like that. I do think it used to be like that. I don't know if it's like that anymore. Just because of how good the Ravens and Bengals are right now.
But, like, the Browns have never been – I don't know. I just feel – I guess I'm a little too close to the fire because I have close friends that are Browns fans. So it is – I don't even think about the Ravens, to be quite honest.
We need a neutral party here because I've got a Ravens story.
Yeah,
Paul?
We know why you hate the Ravens.
I kind of lean away from the Browns just because they stink so bad. But I do.
Do you know any Browns fans?
No.
Okay, so that's part of the reason. I truly think.
I mean, like, I know a few, but, like, I don't daily interact with any. Browns fans don't affect my life. Let's put it that way.
I guess that's part of the reason that you hate teams too, right? It is how they affect you day to day. Like, if you have a cousin that is just the most annoying Browns fan ever, it is. If you have a coworker that just happens to be a diehard Cubs fan, that's got to be really annoying.
You know, I have a random team that I'm not really a huge fan of when we play them. The Colts.
Why don't you like the Colts?
What? The Colts?
Yeah, there's some Colts fans in my life that just always brought up, like, you know, we got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Peyton Manning. We have Super Bowl rings. Just, you know, it almost felt like it was my own little rivalry there. But since then, I don't have much hate for them. But back in the day, like when they had Andrew Luck and the Bengals were just like always one and done, it just felt like, especially after that playoff game. We never
played the Colts, did we?
Yeah,
played them once.
We played them that one time in the playoff game when we had nobody playing, right? Giovanni was like our ex-receiver, and we barely – I don't know if we barely lost. We lost that game, and that fan that I'm talking about was insufferable. Just always dangled that over my head.
The one weird NFL team that I have always had a little bit of a rivalry with, and it's for 3 reasons. One is I've worked for Trace for 4 years now. It's the Green Bay Packers. The second reason is I went to college with Trace's cousin, who's a Green Bay Packers fan, and I am very close friends to Trace's brother, who's a Green Bay Packers fan. So it all depends on kind of your proximity to a team. I also think that there's a lot of hate for Ohio State in this town. I know there's a lot of love for Ohio State in this town, but there's also quite a bit of hate.
Oh, yeah. You're either all in or all out on them, right?
I was going to bring up Ohio State, but I didn't know if the love outweighed the hate. But if you don't like Ohio State,
you hate them.
I mean, I think we all check those boxes.
Right.
But, yeah, I only know a couple Browns fans. A couple of them work for Xavier, and, I mean, they never get in my face about it. So it's just like, yeah, whatever. It's no big deal. They don't really bother me.
The funny thing about the Buckeyes hate in this town is it is a very silent majority. Like, it is like you hang out real low if you like just are annoyed, because that's all it is. It's like unless you're a diehard Michigan fan, why would you hate Ohio State other than the fact that they're always really good and you're tired of it? It just
but
becomes.
They're like not though. They're good, but it's not like they're winning titles all the time.
Okay, but like they're also like a top 3 team in college football every year for the past 15 years, 10 years.
Yes. But it's not like they're like Alabama or Georgia and they're constantly winning titles, because that would be even worse.
Right.
Like they've won one title. They won in 2014. But you would think they would win every other year the way we hear about it.
I would push back on. I think it's just because we only hear about them because there are so many fans around here. But you are right.
Like they're always in the conversation, but it's not like we're getting shoved down our throats with like an Ohio State title every 3 years, because that's what their fan base would make you think that is happening. And they're in a position that can never win the big one. Sorry to have to break it to you, but you don't.
It is just funny because I'm an Ohio State hater, admit it. We hang very low. We don't talk about it a whole lot, and then when something happens, you're like, oh man, can't believe that kick went wide left. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go further. So we talked about the teams. Who are villains? You know, Yadier Molina is no longer on the Cardinals. Who are villains in this town?
James Harrison. That's the one.
James, yeah.
I would have said Ryan Shazier, but I feel like people maybe have been cool on him since his injury. Terrell Suggs, Ray Lewis.
I mean, you're naming the biggest. You're missing the biggest rival, the biggest villain in this town, and that's Big Ben.
Oh yeah,
Big Ben is the biggest villain that this town has ever seen.
Ben Roethlisberger is really the only name that came to mind. I can't.
Really?
I mean, that's partly also
Yachty.
Not growing up like ingrained in the conversation all the time, day in and day out, like you guys were. So that's where I kind of lack a little bit. But
well, like Sir Boy, like a lot of people despise Anthony Rizzo. He's certainly a sports villain in this town.
Yeah, but you can't really hate Anthony Rizzo the same way you hate, like, Ben Roethlisberger was objectively like a meatball weirdo, not a great guy.
Big Ben he causes a lot of pain in this city, and he was not a good guy. You're right. Big Ben is on a pedestal of his own volition. The rest of the guys were just kind of like, a little bit. So like Steve Smith. You're naming Ravens. I would put Steve Smith up there.
Steve Smith. Hines Ward. He broke the guy's jaw. Keith Rivers.
Hines Ward.
Chemo.
Old baseball players that, we already mentioned Anthony Rizzo. Do Reds fans remember how much Roy Oswalt dominated the Reds and Lance Berkman for the longest time? I feel like growing up in this area, you would hear, Roy Oswalt's on the mound again, and the Astros win 5-1. Like, Roy Oswalt, Lance Berkman, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright.
Yeah.
Pujols.
Yeah, Molina. Molina was the baseball name I thought of, but Anthony Rizzo, really?
Oh, yeah, they hate Anthony Rizzo.
Why? Like, seriously, like, he's a good dude. Like, why do you... I feel like, to me,
preaching to the choir here.
Like, part of
the sports villainy.
Has to be like, you can hate the guy. Like, it's tough for me to hate somebody who's not a hateable person just because they have success against you and you get annoyed by them having success against your team. That to me is different than a sports villain. Like, somebody who is, one, somebody that's hateable, and two, also has success against your team. That's a villain. Somebody that's just good against your team. That's just like, there goes that guy again.
Well,
that's not like
it gets annoying, right? When you play a team 18 times like they used to do in the MLB, and just every time that they played, Yadier Molina, couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, just ripping doubles against the Reds left and right. Lance Berkman turns into, Frank Thomas when he plays the Reds. Stuff like that.
All right,
I don't know if I would consider this a villain, but Antonio Brown. I mean,
there's a lot of Steelers. You could just pretty much name a Steelers roster.
I was a Troy Polamalu. Like, I'm just going down the list thinking like.
Well, I don't have much hate for Troy because I always thought Troy was a good guy.
Yeah, that's the same with me. Yeah.
You know who we haven't named? A single Brown because they stink. We haven't named one single Cleveland Brown this entire list. All right, any college?
Well, wait. Before we go to college, what did this town think of Adam Wainwright?
Kirby brings up a good point that the Reds have actually historically played pretty well against Adam.
Okay.
So,
all right.
like, Wainwright isn't on the same pedestal. Roy Oswalt, I would love to know his numbers against the Reds because they have to just be ridiculous. Have to be ridiculous. Albert Pujols, I remember he had his 450th home run in the top of the 9th inning at Great American Ballpark on a grand slam. I think it was either a tie game or it was like one of those grand slams that you were down 3 and it gave the lead. I just remember left center field right next to the bullpen.
Chris Carpenter.
Chris Carpenter's up there.
Yeah.
Is it weird the closest Brown is Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I mean Baker.
Well, that's some Ohio State overlap there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
Any college villains?
Oh, there's gotta be.
Besides the Xavier UC
Yeah,
rivalry?
outside of the shootout. Outside of the shootout, because both teams would have answers for both. College UC, any UC football. I don't know. I'm not great on the UC football villain history.
The UC-UCF rivalry is weird to me. I feel like that, I always see it on Twitter every now and then, and it's just like.
That is a weird one.
Yeah, it's just like I know they've both been
but
relatively good in the past 5 years, but it's just whatever at this point.
Yeah,
especially now. I mean, it's gone, right? For the most
well, no,
part.
they're both going to the Big 12, right? UCF's going to the Big 12.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, they'll play each other. I'm trying to think anybody. I'm looking at the chat. Like I don't know.
Jim Harbaugh.
Denard Robinson. Denard Robinson was electric.
Denard Robinson.
God, he was so fun to watch.
I feel like this is just your kid's memory being wrong. I feel like he was the Heisman favorite for like a decade straight. Like I feel like every year, like Denard Robinson's the Heisman favorite. Just never worked out.
Yeah.
Never played.
Yeah. You go into the season and all you'd hear about is Denard Robinson.
So what's funny about my loathing for Ohio State is I was going to a bachelor party. This is when I went to the NFL draft back a couple years ago when we got Jamar Chase. And we get there, and I had no clue. This is one of my college friends, very close friend of mine. His best man at the wedding, no idea that he was friends with him, was Tyler O'Connor, who, if you remember, was the starting quarterback for Michigan State who beat Ohio State in the horseshoe like 2 years prior to this bachelor party. And for some reason, it might have been just because, I was a little drunk at this bachelor party. I was just dumbfounded. I was like, Travis, you're friends with Tyler O'Connor? How the hell did I not know this? He's, oh yeah, we went to high school together. No idea. So I don't know if you guys remember Tyler O'Connor. Was not a great college quarterback, but he did beat the Buckeyes in the horseshoe. So we'll always have a place. But no college guys that you can remember?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're an Ohio State fan, there are some names you could bring up from Michigan or from, but even still, like villain-wise, you're not playing the same guys over and over in college the same way. Because even like in the Big Ten, you're playing a rotating schedule. So you're really, if you're Ohio State, you're thinking somebody from Michigan, maybe Nick Saban. If you can't beat Nick Saban.
So
Nick Saban's one.
We talked about college, and UK has kind of a stronghold for college basketball in this area, a little bit of it. Like, if you talk to enough old UK fans, they'll say Christian Laettner.
Oh, yeah.
Christian Laettner would.
Yeah. But I wasn't going down to UK. But, yeah, if you're going to UK, I mean, you're thinking, well, yeah, Laettner. What do you – this is one I should know, admittedly. Maybe Seth Pryor can help me out here. What do UK fans think now of Rick Pitino? I don't know the answer to that question. I should know the answer to that. I don't know what UK fans think of Rick. Do they I mean, I know they would probably take him back, but I don't know what the lasting legacy of Rick Pitino is at UK. I don't know the answer to that.
Truly don't know either.
Yeah.
Don't know either.
But it would be an answer from Duke. Everett Henry's an Ohio State fan. That's really disappointing to hear. Sad.
I like that Paul has taken a little bit of a heel. He's taken a little bit of a heel.
It's the only team I can heel for because they never win the big one. So it's the only team that you can kind of grasp at, but they never win the big one. So, yeah.
Love it. What day are the Big East games this week? Are they every day this week?
Wednesday to Saturday. Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday to Saturday.
All right.
Oh, Bobby Knight.
Bobby
Knight in Indiana.
Go Hoosiers.
Yeah, that's a name. All right. Keep going.
And the MLS is too young. So, like, you would say, like, if we're going back to the teams that we hate in this town, it's probably too young for the Columbus Crew. But if soccer catches on enough, it might.
The fans that have been with FC for the longest now, they hate Columbus Crew.
But they've only played the Columbus Crew in the past. How long's FCC been in the MLS? 3 years.
They've played them outside the MLS too. They would play them as like
in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, or like a friendly, like that. That's been going on, I would say, for about
a couple
years before MLS. But
yeah, like the Xavier insult is like, that's not an insult. Like, we know, like, it's like the UC fans saying the Final Four thing. Like, it's like not. It's like when we constantly get it shoved down our throat about Ohio State being in it every year. Like, maybe one time you actually win the deal, not just like twice in the last 50-some years. That's all. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. They were close this year. Just came up a few feet short, or a few feet left.
Love it. I love it.
The Bengals.
Yeah, there's one thing I heard this topic brought around Cincinnati Medium, and obviously with the Ring of Honor discussion talked about. If you can bring back one Bengal in his prime for this team this year, who are you bringing back and why? You can bring back any. Now we have a deficiency at running back. We have a deficiency at the safety position.
Oh, this is an easy one.
Who are you taking?
Willie Anderson, right now. 100%.
Is he right tackle?
Yeah. Sure up that offensive line like that.
Over Munoz? I know Munoz was a left tackle, but
more
Anthony Munoz is the greatest player at his position.
Right. I know, but left tackle versus right tackle, we have a need at right tackle. I'll take the guy that only gave up 16 sacks his entire career.
Okay.
But
over Corey Dillon at running back?
Let's throw Chad Johnson out with this receiving corps.
Right.
Let's get another number one.
Tyler Eifert?
Ooh, that's a sneaky dark horse. I like that one. What about defense?
Yeah, like you can get like Ken Riley. I know he plays cornerback and we need safeties, but Ken Riley. Ooh. Might throw one out at you? Jesse Bates?
Just
bring back
right
Jesse
back.
Bates?
I was trying to think of a defensive line guy.
Von Bell.
Von Bell.
Von Bell. Tim Crumry, like, do we need, like, could we be pushed over the top if we had, like, a guy that could just, on defense, that could pass rush? Like, just solidify it. I know we got Miles Murphy now, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think our defensive line is fine. Is good.
Gino.
Is good. Well, like, Gino or Carlos Dunlap would be great. But, like, that isn't a need by any stretch of the imagination on this Bengals team. And if you're going to supersede a need just to bolster the talent there, then I think you got to go the greatest dude to ever do it, and that's Anthony Munoz. Like, if you're just going to go just straight up adding talent to the roster, it's got to be Munoz. And then try Orlando Brown over at right tackle. But if you're going need, then I think it needs to be either a running back or a safety. Like, can you imagine Corey Dillon on this team?
Oh, man. It'd be crazy.
Put him back there? Now, I know running backs are a dime a dozen in this league. But then, like, you can just a slew. I wish there was a more definitive. Like, I wish the Bengals had a Troy Polamalu, right? A safety that you can just be like, this guy.
Reggie Nelson?
I mean, Reggie Nelson was great. Leon Hall.
Oh, that's a good one.
Ken Riley he's a Hall of Fame cornerback. So you can add there. Are we getting anyone?
Well, no.
Or are they just still
No. Steve Cashman actually brought up an interesting point. The elimination of college baseball programs is an underrated topic. Baseball is kind of a funky college sport in the sense of there are a lot of schools that you would think that would have baseball, like bigger schools that don't. And I don't know. It seems like it is maybe it's a Title IX thing too with the amount of scholarships and everything else. You might know that better than I would.
What do you get? I think you get in baseball. You're only allowed 4 scholarships. Or like 4 or 5.
I mean, like some of these schools that have cut it, like that seems to be sometimes the first program to go.
Well, it's because you want to talk about programs that cost the most money.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That don't bring it back. Because think about everything that goes into the cost of a baseball program. You're talking field maintenance. You're talking equipment, which would almost rival most sports. I mean, a football team probably just because of the sheer number of players. In a hockey team, their equipment's very exclusive. But baseball is probably, in terms of equipment, cost the most money. Plus, you're losing balls left and right, and balls aren't cheap. A dozen balls is $60.
Yeah. Yeah. Then
and you don't bring any money back. You bring no money back unless you're a Southern school, unless you're an SEC school.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not every Big East team. Only 8 of the Big East teams or Big East schools have baseball. Now, part of that's because it's like Marquette, they're north, Providence, north.
Right.
You know, so that's a little bit of it too with the weather. So when you look at schools like Providence has a huge hockey program that a lot of the other schools don't have. So that's a little different, but.
Yeah. There's 2 teams in the MAC that don't even give out scholarships. Like, they have teams, but they just don't give out scholarships.
Yeah.
Akron being one of them.
Interesting.
Chris Sabo. Yeah. Baseball's a weird thing. Speaking of which, our Miami Redhawks getting a new coach.
Beloved Stars.
God, Paul, I know you've been watching. I know you've been watching our Stars. We can't win an OT. What's going on there?
Can't win in overtime. Reed.
We're bringing it back to Dallas. Paul.
Got to win 4 of the next 5, Reed. Oh, my God. What are we going to do? Do we need to make some changes?
I don't know. I just don't know if our dogs are tired. I don't. 2 straight OT losses, have yet to win an 0-5 in OT in this postseason run. Just keep losing in overtime. We bring it back to Dallas. Let's just get a nice win under the belt, get it to 2-1. Maybe even tie it up, and we'll just see where the chips lie. The Dallas Stars, best team still around. That's all I gotta say. Yeah. I can't wait to tune into tomorrow, or they either play tomorrow or Wednesday. I don't know.
Tonight?
They don't play tonight. They do not play tonight.
Tomorrow.
So last Wednesday on the show, we went in the vault and I gave out a parlay.
Yeah.
I said Cubs win, Reds lose, Stars win tonight. The Stars did not play last Wednesday.
Okay.
They did not even play last Thursday. That line was that I saw on Friday. That's how in tune we are with our beloved Stars.
Well, it's just the Mike Schmaltz. You're saving your money. You're budgeting.
Right. Would have been great if you had a parlay. Imagine a 3-day long parlay. First 2 legs hit on Wednesday, and you just got to sit around, wait for Friday for it to hit or lose.
Everett brings up a great point. I was just getting ready to say it as soon as you finished your sentence. No mouse cop in the chat today. You had a very pleasant day in the chat, didn't you?
Oh, it was great. No mouse cop. Chad Wade started a new job. Congratulations to Chad Wade.
Yeah,
Hopefully
Chad.
he watches us in retrospect. Congratulations to that. Maybe Mouse Cop is too. People are busy. It's a beautiful day out. Mouse Cop's probably out playing golf. Maybe it was the fact that we put him in dishonorable mention on Friday, which was well deserved.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. I have not gone. I'm not spoiling it. I'm going to watch it after lunch today. I had to turn the show off right before the chat power rankings, and I have not gotten a chance to watch them yet. How did Tom do? Can you give me a little tease? How did he do?
Tom did not give out the chat power rankings. He said he needed an extension.
Okay.
So he just, like when you're in college and, papers due on Friday, but you really got something good going. You just need a little bit more time. That was Tom. Tom just needed a little bit of an extension. So he's going to do it this week. He's keeping notes. That's what he said. Said rankings were redeemed. Everett Henry. I'll just spoil it for you.
Wait, who'd you say? Oh,
Everett Henry was number 1.
Who did him?
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I did. That's how Mouse Cop became a dishonorable mention. All right. Quickly, this show is sponsored by Betfred Sportsbook. Box lunch as always.
Lunch?
This is going to go in the vault. Take the Astros tonight, minus 120. They're playing the Brewers. They're on the road, but they are favored. I like the Astros to win that one. Wheel of Lunch. Where are we going, guys? I haven't eaten with you guys in a while.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Throw them all up there.
Paul, you know what I love about you going against Ohio State today is Sir Boy was hot on my case. Last week.
But we've done the Ohio State thing for 8 months. I don't understand what
you have.
I mean, yeah, I've been
my hands are
what
clean.
I said.
My hands are clean here.
What I have said today is the same thing I've said for the last 8 months. Maybe I've just never laid it out so clearly. I don't know. I can't say I really care. I care about. I care a lot, but I care more during football season. I don't really have that much against Ohio State basketball. It's really football. I like Chris Holtmann.
I saw people giving out their ranking their fandoms on Twitter.
Yeah.
I believe Alex Wallace was he put the Reds were his number one, and he said a Grand Canyon size gap between him and the Bengals. So I thought that was surprising. There was a lot of people I saw on this thread through Cincinnati Twitter, people saying that the Reds are their favorite team over the Bengals, which in this day and age feels a little surprising.
I wish that the Bengals and the Reds were competing for championships at the same time. Because it would be a very clear thing. The seasons don't overlap. It would be a very clear, are the Reds selling out or close to selling out? Are they averaging 30,000 fans a night? PB's Ghost, I did not.
2 years ago, 2021.
Yeah.
It might have been 2019. It was 2021 when they were playing competitive ball. There was at least 20,000 fans every time I went to the ballpark.
Yeah.
There was a time where I went a week straight to Great American Ballpark. It was they played the Phillies and then they played the Padres, and I wanted to watch the Phillies. I wanted to watch Bryce Harper, and I wanted to watch Fernando Tatis. I went every day for like 5 straight games, and there was 20,000 plus, probably more than that. How I determine if the stadium, how I fill the stadium full is literally just the top deck. If I see not just straight red up in the top deck, I know it's a good crowd. Like if there's actually people sitting up there. It's fun when you go to the ballpark and there's 40,000 people there. I imagine this weekend was so much fun. I couldn't get out. Didn't have time.
All right.
Let's go.
Fire it up.
Spin that wheel.
Got a lot of options today.
You said to put them all up there, so I put them up there.
Losing a good
That's
one.
That's fine with Chipotle. It's one of my favorites, but
yeah,
are there multiple Burger Kings? Why do we got the Kings in there? Just go ahead.
Was there 2 Burger Kings?
I don't know. You said Kings, not King. I don't know if you're. Oh, I see what you're doing. Canes? See ya. We're getting back to Canes.
Your distaste for them.
Get some Long John Silvers. I've never been to Long John Silvers.
You don't like fish, though.
Chick-fil-A. Yeah, I'm not a big fish guy.
Good options are dwindling
I think
fast.
seafood's my favorite thing. Did you guys see our Miami Redhawks went to the regional championship in softball?
Hey.
They did. They lost 5-4.
Oh, man.
Had a lead going into the 6th inning.
That's tough.
Would have given a girl from Northwestern her 2nd loss of the year. She was 22-1. Oh,
no.
Holly Blasco. 3-1 shot.
Long John Silver's the worst in the game.
Oh, no.
All right. While we're spinning this wheel, I got to ask you guys. Me, Alex, and Everett were discussing. So here in Hamilton, there's the east side and the west side.
Yeah.
The river is what divides it. So everything on that side of the river is the west side.
Sure.
We were arguing, does downtown consider, I want a third party. Does downtown considered east side? Right here, right now. Because it is technically on the east side of the river. But like.
No.
I feel like it's its own thing.
No.
All right, thank you. Had a third party. There you go.
Oh, boy. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty, guys.
We've got one solid. I mean, the best that there could be on this list. And we got Sonic. If we go to Sonic with Mouse Cops not even in the chat, all right, don't have to worry about that. All right, now we can't win or can't lose.
Well, we really can't.
I would actually love some Mickey D's. Going to JM's.
JM's.
Paul's been to the first ever Jersey Mike's. They know him there. He's got his loyalty.
Yeah. All right. See you, everybody.
Yeah, this was Box Lunch presented by Betfred Sportsbook. We'll be back on Wednesday. If you guys have some just debate topics like this, because this is my envision of what this show looks like. It's just you just round table it up, yak it up. So if you have any more, just put them in the Discord. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. But until then, we'll see you. It's been Box Lunch presented by Betfred Sportsbook.